Mm. Happy Thursday morning, everybody. Let me make sure we are on over on LinkedIn. Yes, we are. We are good on Facebook. Good morning to folks on Facebook. We are good over on Rumble Studio, YouTube, X. We're good there. We're good on Instagram, good on TikTok. Good morning, everybody. If you're coming in on TikTok, like the live, folks. Get the 500 likes pretty quickly. 500 likes should be like, as soon as you see the screen, we should already be at 500 likes. So let's please get those likes up. And let me get my pinned comment over here on Instagram. There it is. Tell me your locations where y'all are checking in from. Let's get the likes up on TikTok, please. Push this button. Hold on 1 second. That's fixed. Let's get the likes up on TikTok, please, and tell me where you are checking in from. Let's see what we got. Nikki, good morning. Asks, how's the humidity today? Normal. Is as expected is how the humidity is today in South Florida, which is high. Every day is high, but I like humidity. Actually, I don't have a problem with humidity. I mean, you got to make your adjustments, but I don't have a problem with it. If I did, I wouldn't be here. This is definitely not the place if you don't like humidity. Connecticut is in the building. As y'all are coming in, again, shout yourselves out. Bristol, Tennessee is in the building. Jennifer also checking in from Tennessee. Tennessee's in the house. Cali is in the building. There's a deal I'm trying to get closed in Cali. I might go out to Cali for an event next month, but that is still to be determined. I'm still waiting to hear back from the people who are making the decision, but hopefully we get that done. What we're going to talk about here today is we talked about this yesterday. We actually touched on it a good amount yesterday. And after that route yesterday, what is that?
Stuffed animal.
Stuffed animal? What kind of animal?
It's a dinosaur.
Okay, you want to come over here and show everybody?
No.
Okay, bye.
Yes.
Yes? My son will say no, and then he'll say yes. Okay. What kind of animal is it? What animal is it? What is it?
It's a dinosaur. It's called a triceratops.
A triceratops?
Yeah, it has 3 horns. 1, 2, 3.
That's right.
And 3 eyes. 1, 2.
2 eyes.
Yeah, see?
Yeah, and 3 horns. What color is this?
It's blue.
That's
It
right.
has hair.
That's right. It's matching Daddy's tie. Same color. Yeah. Did we plan this?
Yeah.
No, we didn't plan it. This happened randomly by luck. So, after yesterday when we started talking, please like the live, everybody on TikTok.
I'm gonna go eat my lunch. Because mommy is making me lunch.
Are you coming back in here?
No.
Okay, close the door, son. Come close the door. So after yesterday, thank you. See you later.
See you.
Okay, so yesterday after I went through talking about what we were talking about yesterday, the commentary turned to, I was asking if those of y'all had heard about this mayor who got, basically he's going to become the mayor of New York. And I think we all can, for all intents and purposes, he's going to become the mayor. He didn't actually win the election yet. The election is not until November. The general election when he officially can be crowned as the next mayor. But if you win the Democratic primary in New York City, that pretty much means you're going to become the mayor. So this guy's going to be the mayor. And we're going to talk about this guy, this new allegedly, not actually, we can't even call it alleged. This guy calls himself Mr. Mamdani. I got pretty good at pronouncing his name yesterday because I said it so many times. Mayor Mamdani. This is, let me look this guy up one more time. So Mamdani's mayoral win. So they're even calling it a mayoral win pretty much. This is pretty much done. And he's emerged victorious in New York in the New York City primary, potentially becoming the city's first Muslim mayor. And I don't know if he's the first socialist mayor, but he'd be the first Muslim mayor if he gets elected in November. His campaign focused on affordability, proposing initiatives like city-run grocery stores to combat rising food prices, free public transit, and a rent freeze. Now, these policies have sparked a wide range of reactions. We're going to have some here today. I would call what I'm going to do is more of a response than a reaction, because I don't even live in New York. Some viewing them as innovative solutions to urban issues, while others see them as economically unsustainable. We're going to talk about that here today, and everybody's talking about this. So this is like the biggest trending topic. Well, at least locally, the biggest trending topic is this whole situation. So Tyler Winklevoss is talking about it. What he has to say, he said a lot. He wrote a damn article on X. Eric Adams said, let's see what Eric Adams has to say. I think we should look and see what Eric Adams has said about this. And he is not really talking about Mamdani. He's talking about himself, because Eric Adams is the current mayor of New York, and he's about to not be the mayor of New York anymore. But Eric Adams said, I have fought for this city as your mayor, managing 300 plus employees and $115 billion budget that have added more cops and made our streets and subways safer, delivered record amounts of housing, cleaned our streets, and helped create more jobs and small businesses than ever before in the city's history. Now, I don't know if everything he's saying here is true, but I mean, there's a lot of things that can mitigate everything he says. Politicians tend to throw these things out there when they're trying to make themselves look good, and their supporters, and then there are people who don't like them. Their detractors go basically say the opposite about them. So forget about all of that. That's all just political boilerplate material. We're not about to throw away all that progress to a socialist who will tear it all down with false promises he can't keep. Now there is some substance to that statement. The cruelest thing one can do to a family in need is promise them something that you can't deliver. That I directionally agree with Mayor Adams. Please join me in this fight to protect the city. So then he has a link to his website where he's basically asking you to donate money, which is that's the real job of a politician, just ask people to donate money. So on Eric Adams' website, it's a very simple website. I respect simple websites. All he's doing is asking you how much money you want to contribute, or how much money you want to give me. All right, that's a very simple ask by Eric Adams. Everybody should have a website like this. How much money you want to give me? I need to create a website like this. How much money do you want to contribute? Just let you give me money. I don't even have to give you a reason. Just write something on social media, then ask you for some money. So God Side, the last one I'm going to read. God Side is a guy who shows up very often on the Joe Rogan show. I think he's been on Rogan's podcast like 4, 5, 6 times. He's a professor, evolutionary behavioral scientist. Any of you haven't heard of this guy, is God, G-A-D. His last name is Saad, S-A-A-D. I forget where he's from, but I do follow him on X. And he says, his shoes, have a better understanding of economics than this clown. It is unreal. And he's talking about Mr. Zoran Mamdani, the person who's looking like they're going to be the winner of the general election in New York. And he said, I will lower prices by making stores owned by the government. Okay, this guy's just giving you straight socialism, and he's being open about it. All right, it's one thing when you're AOC or you're Bernie Sanders and you got to kind of sort of hide the socialism that you're talking about, and you ain't doing it all the way. He's not being halfway about it. He's coming out and saying, this is exactly what we're going to do, and I'm happy about it, and you're going to like it, and this is actually going to work. And it could have blown up in his face if people said hell no and didn't vote for him, but people said hell yeah and they voted for him. So this is telling us something. It's telling us, I don't know if what it's telling us is good or what it's telling us is bad. Most of you can tell me. Tell me in the comments. Is this telling us, let me back up. It is telling us something. Is what it's telling us good or bad? Give me a good or bad in the comments that this guy came out, blatantly said, we are going to do socialist things. We are going to take the stores that you shop from. They're not going to be privately owned anymore. The government is going to own them. We are going to own them. And this is where I'm standing. And people voted for this. Is this good or bad? And I can see both sides of it, because it's good because allegedly a good percentage of people who voted, I think it was 44%, the people who voted in New York the other day voted for this. 44% said, yes, this is good. They voted for it. They celebrated this. This is the guy that they wanted. And then it wasn't everybody. It was maybe another, I think it was maybe like 90% between the top three people. I think the other guy's name was Lincoln. And then you had Cuomo. They all voted bad. We don't want this guy. But the majority of the people who voted for this guy. So it's a good and a bad thing. So scandal-stained Andrew Cuomo, who knows if he was the best person to go against, but he was the person. So scandal-stained Andrew Cuomo was defeated. And this is set off a political firestorm. We know that. This guy calls himself Zoran Mamdani. And by the way, he calls himself a democratic socialist. So I'm not saying this pejoratively when I call this guy a socialist. He literally calls himself a socialist. Let's go to his X feed. That's where I'm looking right now. Mr. Zoran Kwame Mamdani, as you can see right here. I just started following him yesterday. This is his X account. For those of you who want to know what's happening in the everyday world and you don't want to watch TV news, then you should be on X. That's where it goes down. That's the town square of current events. So Zoran Kwame Mamdani, he has 377,000 followers on X. I'm sure this will be 1 million by the end of the year. He right now is an assembly member in New York State. So he's part of the assembly and he's running for mayor. We already know that. And he says right in his profile, I want to freeze the rent. I want to make buses fast and free. I'm going to deliver free universal child care. Again, these all sound great. And then he literally calls himself Democratic Socialist. It says right there on his profile, Democratic Socialist. So he's open about it. And then he's telling people to vote. And he's based in Astoria, Queens. And that's it. Now, this is where he stands. So let's talk about this. So he is the first Muslim candidate to ever win a major party mayoral nomination in New York. He is the first Muslim to ever do this. And it represents a bold generational shift for several reasons, in addition to his socialist leanings and his socialist ambitions, we'll just say. Now, whether he's actually going to do this stuff, again, is a whole other story. Now, first of all, he's young. He's only 33 years of age. In politics, that's young. He is grassroots backed, meaning allegedly, according to him, most of the money that he is getting is coming from everyday citizens, is not from these big political action committees and big donors giving him super big checks. It's just a bunch of small donations from everyday people, allegedly. And he is unapologetically progressive. And you notice something about politicians. A lot of politicians, when they first come in the game, they tell you that they are grassroots back. They all are grassroots back when they first come out. But we'll leave that. We'll leave it as it is for now. He has made himself, he's unapologetically progressive. Again, this right here, I'm going to have to give this guy a little bit of credit. I got to give him some credit here. Actually, I'll give him a significant amount of credit. Not a little bit, a significant amount of credit for this reason alone, is that he's come out and said, I am a democratic socialist. He put it in his profile. He literally gives himself the title. He is unapologetically progressive. He's saying things that people have tended to, over the years, ridicule and attack and say, this guy, you're a fool, you're an idiot, you're stupid, and you think this is possible. He's taken those things and he said, yes, this is where I'm at. I'm standing on this square. Nobody's going to knock me off this square, and I'm standing on this. And it actually worked. Again, other people have come out and they have alluded to these things. They touched on these things, but they never built their entire platform on top of this house of, whether you want to call it sand or a house of rocks, we don't know. I got an opinion on that. We'll get to that in a moment. But he's decided to stand on this, and people said, yes, that's what I want. And they voted for it. New York, you voted for this. I'm sure we got some New Yorkers in the chat right now. All right, y'all voted for this. New York said yes. He said, this is what we're going to do. And New York said yes. Bernie Sanders said, this is what we're going to do. And America said no. Or at least the Democratic Party, we can agree, said no. What, 2-3 times? They said no. Hillary, Kamala, Biden. No, no, no. The 3 times Bernie Sanders was trying to run. I'm sure he tried to run before that. AOC might try to run. I think America's going to say no. But New York City said yes. This could be something. All right, this can be something. And I see somebody in the comments said he's misrepresenting Zoran's policies intentionally. No, sir. No, I'm not. I'm reading right off of his X profile. So if I'm misrepresenting him, please tell me. And I didn't mention a policy. I just mentioned the things that he said he's going to do. I mentioned his promises, not his policy, his promises, which says, let me say it again. Say it again. I'm going to freeze the rent, make buses fast and free. And I'm going to deliver free universal child care. I'm a democratic socialist. That says that on his profile, on his verified account on social media. That is not his policy. That's just his promises. And There's no misrepresentation. That's reading is what that is. So if I can't read, please inform me. It's news to me that I can't read if I'm getting that wrong. Now, he's being unapologetically progressive. I'm giving him credit for this because Kamala Harris is progressive. The AOC is progressive. Joe Biden has some progressive ideas. Barack Obama has some progressive ideas, but none of them had the balls to say, this is exactly who I am, what I am, and I'm standing on it. I'm going to build my whole platform on it. He's doing it, and it actually worked in New York. Now, that's a whole different thing from having to work in America, because New York does not represent all of the United States of America. But it is a step in a certain direction. Again, whether it's the right direction or the wrong direction is subjective. Each one of you can decide on your own. But this is a step, and it is going in a direction. It's going somewhere. Now, where, again, we don't know yet. Well, that's what we're going to talk about. Please get the likes up on TikTok. Let's get up to 10,000 likes. We have 6,000. I know you all are loving the amazingness of my conjecture here, but please let's get the likes up to 10,000. We have 6.4. Let's get up to 10,000 likes. So supporters say that he's the future of politics. I don't know about all that, but they say he is the future of politics. I do believe him winning this primary and getting the Democratic nod, or at least it looks like he's going to get the Democratic nod. I do believe that this is going to spawn future politicians who come with similar ideas and similar, I guess you can call this radical. He's going to spawn other people who come out with these progressive ideas and going along these lines to see if they can do the exact same thing. So critics are saying, so some are saying he's the future because other people are going to try this, and that way they're right. Now, are those other people going to win? We don't know. Are those other people going to get elected? We don't know. And will they be able to actually do the stuff that they're promising? That's what we're going to talk about a little bit more here today. Critics say that he's dangerous, naive, and even un-American. And some people say he's just a complete idiot or a fool. I don't think this guy's an idiot or a fool. That I will say up front. And I tell you this all the time about politics. When you come across a politician with whom you disagree, if you're on the left and you disagree with somebody staunchly who's on the right, or if vice versa, you're on the right, you disagree with someone on the left, don't call them dumb or say that they're an idiot just because you disagree with their ideas. Now, if you get to hearing them actually dive into detail on their ideas and you understand that there is something that this person really does not understand, but they think they understand it, then you can call them dumb or an idiot. But most people don't dive that deep. Most people just hear the surface level things that the politician says, or the things that the media tells you that they said, or the clip that you see taken out of context. Is a 30-minute conversation. They pull a clip 2 minutes out of context. You watch the 2 minutes, or even worse, you don't even watch the 2 minutes. You got somebody tell you what got said in the 2 minutes, and then there's a video, so you assume they're telling you the truth. Oftentimes they're lying to you. Trust me, I've had it done to me. And they'll pull that piece out of context, or at least what they're telling you that the person said they didn't even say. Then you go off of that and say the person's an idiot when you have out of context, out of context. You don't even know what actually got said. So don't call a politician dumb just because you disagree with them. What you need to do is find out what they actually believe, which will require a deep dive into them explaining their positions, which they often don't do, especially during election season. Politicians often don't explain their policies or what they're going to do because explaining their policies exposes them to being called out for their nonsense. And every politician has to put some nonsense into their policy promises, because if they told you the truth about everything they would do policy-wise, nobody will vote for them. This is one of the reasons why I'm not a politician, because I would tell you the truth about, all right, I'll do this, this, and this. The problem is, for me to do this, this, and this, the cost is going to be this, this, and that. And when I tell you the cost part, you're not going to be so excited about the thing that I promise. This is the issue with every politician. It's the reason why anytime people are voting for a politician and getting excited about politicians, I always offer you the word of caution that there are no free lunches, folks. No such thing as a free lunch. So anytime a politician tells you they're going to do something, understand there's a cost to them doing that thing. Now, sometimes they're just talking shit. They're just saying things to get you to vote for them, and they're never going to do it because they can't, or they never even plan to. And sometimes they are going to do it. The thing is, there's a cost to them doing it, and they don't tell you about the cost to them doing it. See, Donald Trump told you we're going to secure the border. He didn't tell you what was going to happen in the process of trying to secure the border, which is what we see these days with the pushback against ICE and the protests in the streets, et cetera, and all the court cases and all the injunctions. See, he knew that was coming. It's just he couldn't tell you that, because then you wouldn't be so excited about, hey, let's just close the borders and get the illegals out of the country. So Mr. Mamdani's win is about more than a single race. I do believe that. It's in the biggest city in America. That's the reason why we're talking about it, even though most of us do not live in New York. I'm sure some of you do. It's a referendum on what kind of city, first of all, New York is on its way to becoming. I think no matter what he does, if he wins, I'm pretty sure he's going to win. No matter what he does as mayor of New York, the fact that he got voted in on this platform is telling us something. And where is New York headed? and who gets to lead that change to wherever New York is going, because New York is changing in some way. And why and how, that's the conversation we're going to have here today. So Success with Edward over on Instagram said, if he wins, there will be a mass exodus out of New York. Well, there's already been a mass exodus out of New York. A lot of those New Yorkers live down here in South Florida. I know a lot of them. Some of them are neighbors of mine. They left in 2020 and in 2021 during the virus. All right, that was enough of a sign for them. And that was under Mayor Eric Adams. Now, with this guy coming in, whatever he actually does, again, compared to what he's claiming to do, we're going to get to that in a moment. So what Mr. Mamdani did, he built a grassroots campaign powered by volunteers, not political machines. And being that he's relatively young, yeah, it was all based on volunteers, or not all, but significantly based on volunteers. He got young people excited about these progressive ideas. And someone was saying this in the comments yesterday when I was on my live. Let's get the likes up on TikTok, please. Is that in cities like New York, with a lot of young people around and around the country, people paying attention to this, is that young people they haven't come close to hitting their financial stride yet. So people who are in their 20s are generally in the struggle, but not in a negative way. It's kind of like, this is just kind of how it is. You got to build yourself up. And then in your 30s, 40s, 50s, then you have more money because you're more established in your careers. So a lot of young people are looking at a place like New York City, like, how the hell can I afford to live here? I can't afford the rent. I can't afford to live by myself, at least. It's hard to afford groceries. It's hard to afford gas. It's hard to afford transportation. So this guy comes along and says, well, I'm going to offer you all these things that are based on saving you money. So again, let's look what he said. Freeze rent, so your rent can't go up. Make transportation free, public transportation free. And we're going to give you universal child care and a bunch of other things. He couldn't fit it all into his bio. But I'm a Democratic socialist. So I'm a Democrat and I'm a socialist. So I'm all about the government taking control of things so that we can basically give you all the stuff that you want. And let me look at, again, just this trending topic on what people have said about him. Godside said, my shoes have a better understanding of economics than this clown. Now I know he's being hyperbolic to get people reactive on social media. That's the way it works. I think Mr. Mamdani has a pretty good understanding of economics. I don't think he's an idiot. I think he knows exactly what he's doing. I think he knows that a lot of things that he's promising are kind of not plausible to actually get done. But he knows that if he promises people these things, people will get excited about it. They'll vote for him. And lo and behold, look where we are. All right. So this actually worked. I don't think this guy really believes all the things that he's saying are actually possible to be done. I just think he believed that, hey, or he placed a bet. If I come out and talk about this stuff like I'm actually going to do it, and I can give some surface level points to make it seem feasible, then there are people who will be excited by that and they'll go vote for me. And he was right. He won that bet. So this guy named Jeffrey Mead says, Mamdani is promising to stabilize rents. That is not solving the housing crisis. Housing crisis is actually going to make it worse. He says rent control kills development, it discourages renovation, it complicates maintenance, and it makes it harder for new renters to find homes. And he has a video explaining this. The whole thing is there's a lot of people who are breaking down the things that Mr. Mamdani has promised. And my argument against their argument is not that they're wrong, because I haven't even listened to everything these people have said. My argument against the argument is that it does not fucking matter. It doesn't matter. What have I told you all over and over again? 3-word phrase. You need to keep this in mind anytime you try to make some logical or rational case against something that people have used to get everybody else excited. Facts don't matter. Facts don't matter, ladies and gentlemen. All right, this is a reality that many of you are having trouble coming to grips with. Facts do not matter. Now, what does it mean that facts don't matter? It doesn't mean that every single fact. I'm not saying this in an absolute sense. I'm saying it in a directional, metaphorical sense, but this also applies literally. So the fact that gravity exists is a thing, and it does matter. If you try to jump off the roof of your building, you're probably going to go straight down and you might kill yourself. So I'm not saying that you can just disregard things. When I say facts don't matter, what I mean is you cannot convince or influence people by just giving them logic and facts. And there's only maybe 2 out of every 100 people who are interested in hearing logic and facts and are interested in having their mind changed by logic and facts. You're talking maybe 1 out of 100 people. If you want to get people excited and engaged and you want to influence and persuade people, you have to give them something that influences and persuades them. You got to meet them where they are. You have to meet them where they are. Most people are not in the zip code of give me all the logic and give me all the facts, even though most people say that that's what they want. That's not really what they want, because logic and facts require thinking, and most people are mentally lazy. So if you offer people logic and facts, you're going to lose a bunch of your audience really quickly because they don't want to hear this shit. Facts don't matter. So this guy, Mamdani, talking about all these things he's going to do that are not fiscally feasible or even possible and not even good, even if he could do them. The fact of everything that I just said don't matter. Those facts don't matter. Could he actually do this? Probably not. Does that matter? No. Is he actually going to do this? Probably not. Does it matter? No. Is it going to make things worse in New York? Yes. Does that matter? No. How do we know it doesn't matter? Because he just won. He just won the election. That's how we know it doesn't matter. So if y'all want a real life example of why facts don't matter, I just gave it to you, and we're going to break this down even further. So this guy, some say he lacks the executive experience running a city or managing billion-dollar budgets in New York. According to Eric Adams, had a $115 billion budget. That's a lot of money. That this guy does not have the experience doing that. But this whole you don't have political experience has basically been thrown out the window ever since Mr. Donald J. Trump has come into office in the United States of America. So I don't think this person doesn't have experience argument. Yes.
Dad, I got a stuffed animal. It's a monkey for you.
For me?
Yeah, for you.
Okay, well, I'm in the middle of my live stream, so can I put it down over here while I keep talking?
Yeah.
Okay, you leaving?
Bye-bye.
All right, see you later.
What does this do?
That doesn't do anything. Close the door if you're leaving, or you can stay in if you want. All right, bye-bye. All right, so my son brought me the monkey. We'll let the monkey sit here with us while I continue. So all these things about this person doesn't have political experience, it doesn't really matter anymore because Donald Trump came into office. He had no political experience and he won 3 nominations, 2 elections. Oh, you're taking it back?
Yeah, I'm taking them back.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Yes, I need them.
Okay. All right. So this whole thing, if he doesn't have experience, really doesn't matter. I mean, it is a fact. Again, a fact that doesn't matter. You get it? Facts don't matter. Next, he is speaking directly to working class neighborhoods that feel left behind. This is a winning political strategy. Look what Bernie Sanders is doing. Bernie Sanders has been in politics for 50 years. He's been preaching the same thing for at least the last 35, that America is becoming an oligarchy. And there's a bunch of people with oligarchy simply means a few people with a whole bunch of money are controlling everything else. That's what it means. He's been preaching this since the 90s. And he keeps getting reelected, and he is significant in politics. He's one of the most well-known members of Congress. We did this last week. I was asking maybe a week or two ago, might have been 2 weeks ago. I was asking you all to name any congressperson you can name. It's 500 plus people in Congress. Name the person you can name that we can name without Googling. And all together, all of us put together, we came up with 40 people. There are 500 plus people in Congress. Bernie Sanders is one of those 40. And the reason we know his name is because his whole thing is oligarchy, oligarchy, oligarchy. And all he talks about is how the everyday person can't get by and can't survive because all these billionaires are somehow, some way stifling your financial progress, which logically, factually makes no sense whatsoever. However, people keep buying into the shit because there are more people on that side who feel like they are struggling financially and they don't want to be held accountable for whatever got them into the struggle. So when a politician comes along and says, well, your problem is not because of you, your problem is because of them over there. And if you get behind me, I'm going to attack them over there. And the more you cheer for me, the more you are indirectly fighting them over there because they're the cause of your problem, not the person in the mirror. A bunch of people are going to vote for that because this is just simple human nature. If you remove accountability from a person, they will follow you because you are telling them that there's a simple solution to a problem that they have either created, exacerbated, or allowed. And if you hold them accountable, again, 98 out of 100 people don't want to hear that shit. There's another reason why I can't be in politics, because I too naturally defer to speaking like this. And if I actually try to speak like Bernie Sanders, it will be a struggle for me because I will have to consciously remind myself to not tell people what I actually know to be true. Bernie Sanders, on the other hand, has a different wiring. I believe that Bernie believes the stuff that he says. In a general sense, I believe AOC believes the stuff that she says. I believe Kamala believes her stuff, that Obama and Biden and this guy, Mr. Mamdani, I believe that they believe on some level the things that they're saying. Now, can they actually do them? Well, we already have seen this. We already got examples of them not being able to actually prove these things or make these things happen. So, I mean, what are we doing here? So he is speaking to directly to working class neighborhoods that feel left behind and people who feel like they can't move forward and they feel like the government was the worst entity you should look for whenever you have a problem. They feel like the government should do something to solve the problem. And he says, I'm from the government and we're here to help. Ronald Reagan famously said, if you hear that phrase, you should always be afraid. As soon as you hear someone say, we're from the government, we're here to help. Why? Because it has already been proven over your lifetime. I don't care if you're 25 or you're 55. Over your lifetime, it has already been proven that anything the government takes control of that involves money and productivity, they fumble the ball and they mess it up. There's nothing they've done well except defense spending, except military and defense. There is no sector in life that the government has control of that they do well, effectively, or efficiently, or in a cost-conscious way. Not one thing. Zero. Nothing. Except defense. Military, defense, they do that great. Everything else, they fumble. This guy's coming from the government. Mayor is the government. Local government is still the government nonetheless. All right, he's telling the everyday person who doesn't see a bright future for themselves that I'm going to solve your problem, just vote for me. Bad idea. This is a bad strategy for any of you who's a citizen. Now, if you're a politician, this works. So any of you wants to run for a political office, copy this guy's playbook. This will work. You don't have to do it exactly as he did it, and it depends on where you're doing it at. I'm not telling you to go into some town in Wyoming and try this. This won't work in Wyoming. It will work in New York. It will work in San Francisco. It won't work in Wyoming or Omaha, Nebraska, or Eau Claire, Wisconsin, but it will work in some of these cities. And y'all pretty much can guess which ones, usually the coastal ones. Coastal cities, the best chance of something like this working. And he's just telling you things are not working for you. So follow me and I'll fix all your problems. Okay. What is this, folks? What did I just say? Someone comes to you and says, things are not working for you in life. Just follow me and I will fix all your problems. That's what they tell you. What are they offering you, folks? And hopefully y'all been paying attention. Let's get the likes up to 30,000 likes, folks. Can anybody tell me what this is that they're offering? They're offering something that does not exist. It is not a real thing. It is a mirage in the middle of the desert. It is the free lunch. There is no such thing as a free lunch. This is the third law of economics, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, a dream. You can call it a dream too. They're offering you some magic beans that if you put them outside in the dirt, is going to grow into a beautiful beanstalk and it'll take you up into the clouds and there'll be a whole bunch of gold and rainbows up there. All right, this is a dream. They're offering you a hill of beans. There is no such thing as a free lunch. He's going to freeze your rent. He's going to give you free public transportation, and he's going to give you free childcare and a whole bunch of other things for free. And he's going to take over the stores, and the prices are not going to go up, and they're going to be really cheap for everybody. That sounds really good in the brochure. But as they say, real life tends to differ from the lab tests. He offered you the lab tests. Lab tests work. All right, there's a reason why people sell junk, and they keep selling it, because people buy it because you are selling them the illusion of something for nothing. Human beings are always susceptible to the illusion of something for nothing. If you want to sell a whole bunch of stuff, you should offer people something for nothing because a bunch of idiots will buy it. At the same time, as a consumer, you should be aware of someone offering you something for nothing, because if you buy it, then you become the idiot. So you got to learn how to take advantage of the idiots while not being the idiot. Zoran Mamdani has mastered this, and he proved it by winning this nomination in New York. He is not the idiot, but he sold a bunch of the idiots on these magic beans that he is offering. Now, he has been branded a radical by moderates and business owners who fear tax hikes, which is one of the only ways he can do any of the things he's talking about. He's going to have to increase taxes because the money has to come from somewhere. New York has a budget of $115 billion, which sounds like a lot of money, but the budget is always being spent and overspent, even though it's $115 billion. So it's not like he just has money sitting there waiting to be used for him to freeze rents and lower housing costs and give free childcare and free health care and make the buses and trains free. You know how many buses and train workers there are in New York City? Let's find out. How many public transportation workers are there in all of New York City put together? Because these people still got to get paid. That's the reason why I'm asking this question. If he's going to make buses and trains free, some of the money that you pay to ride the bus or the train in New York, some of that money is used to pay the staff. So MTA is called the Metropolitan Transportation Authority in New York. Totals around 74,100 employees. And then there's the bus company. They got 53,000 of that 74,000. And then there's the NYC docked. They do the roads, bridges, the Staten Island ferry. That's another 5,700 people. So estimated total is about 80 to 85,000 workers. What's the average salary of all these 80 to 85,000 workers? So let's come up with a number here, because remember, their budget is $115 billion for the city of New York. That's for the whole city all year. So let's see. MTA employees, average total compensation on Empire Center, there's an average. Government salaries, there's an average. So for MTA employees, they say both numbers align close to around $98,000 a year. So it's a pretty good paying job. NYC dot, that's another $64,000. Then when you weight the average, you get to about overall average across all workers is about $94,000 a year. So it's a pretty good paying job. So $94,000 a year for 80,000 people, 94,000 per year, and you got 80,000 people per year. That is $7.5 billion. $7.5 billion in New York. Is that right? Or is it 75 billion? Let's just say I think that's 7.5. The number's right. $7.5 billion. Where's that money coming from? Because it used to come from you paying your fares. Or you ain't paying the fare anymore. It's free. They still got to get paid. I don't think any of those people are taking a pay cut. He didn't say I'm going to give everybody pay cuts. He didn't talk about pay cuts at all. Maybe there'll be pay cuts. Maybe that's one of the ways he can give you free childcare is that, okay, people giving childcare, we're going to cut the salaries in half. He didn't say. Now, see, this is where you got to be careful, folks. This is the reason why we have contracts. So that people can throw stuff out there. We got to know what the thing you didn't say. We got to make sure that's in the contract. So he brought energy and authenticity that younger voters say they've been waiting for. Now, I don't know if he's authentic, but he did bring energy. And the thing about authenticity, the thing about politics, folks, is that you don't have to actually be authentic. You just have to be able to feign authenticity. You have to get people to think that you're authentic, whether you are or you're not. You get people to think you're authentic, then they'll vote for you. And that's a skill. Being able to feign authenticity is acting. And again, he got younger voters believing that he's one of them and that he sees things the way that they see things. And this is the reason why they voted for him. And compare that to his opponents, then I can see the juxtaposition, the contrast, why he won. Now, some voters are trying to link. We got to talk about this because it is part of the conversation. Some voters are trying to link his Muslim background. So this guy's a Muslim, and they're saying, well, 25 or so years ago, there were some people who were of Muslim background who were responsible for the attacks in New York City, 9/11 attacks. And now New York City has went and elected somebody who's a Muslim as a governor. I say, no, we're not doing that. We're not going to do that. Even if you're not a fan of Zohran Mamdani, even if you still have emotional scars and trauma on you from what happened in 9/11 in New York, there is no connection between, there's a connection meaning that he's Muslim and those people, the people who allegedly did it were Muslim. But other than that, what other connection do you have? What else you got? If that's it, then no, we're not doing that. If you don't like him being voted for, then just say, I don't like his policies. I don't like what he's doing. I don't think what he's doing is actually feasible or that's actually going to happen. Those things I would say about him. But just to say, oh, well, we can't have a Muslim mayor in New York because a Muslim from this group of, there are billions of people who identify as Muslim, at least millions, hundreds of millions. Now we can't have a Muslim simply because there was a Muslim who did that bad thing 25 years ago. You're reaching. That's a reach. That's a reach. We can't do that. United States of America. Citizens, we can't do that. We can't do that. All right. If you don't like his policy, just say you don't like his policy. But let's not make this into, and I saw Riley Gaines, who I like what she's about. Riley Gaines is the swimmer who basically became an activist against men and women's sports when she came in 5th in the nation in the national final of the, I believe it was 200-meter freestyle swimming, because a man tied with her for 5th and the man got the trophy at the event and she had to get a trophy later. She started her whole career being an activist going against men and women's sports. But every once in a while she dips into this race hustling thing. And when I say race hustling, I mean using someone's immutable characteristics, specifically their race or their nationality or their religion, and using that against them as a like your main point of emphasis to go against them. That's called race hustling. And Riley Gaines jumped in it yesterday and she said something. I can't remember exactly what she said, but she was referring to Mr. Mamdani. And I said, no, you're race hustling. Don't do that. And I'll call out a white race hustler just as quickly as I'll call out a black race hustler. If you're race hustling, I'm going to call you out on your bullshit. Riley Gaines, if you're watching this, don't do that. Stop that. If you don't like his policies, just say you don't like his policy. You don't like his promises, say you don't like his promises. But don't say, well, we can't elect him just because he's a Muslim. Why? Why not? You go elect a white person. You go elect a black person. Why can't you elect a Muslim? What does that have to do with anything? So some voters are trying to link these, and I say, no, reject it. We're not doing it. Now, he defeated Cuomo, and we know Cuomo has a long rap sheet, and it's when you're an established person like that, you offer a lot of juicy targets to be attacked. So Cuomo's been around for a long time. This guy's brand new. Nobody knows him. So Cuomo couldn't hit him on anything except experience. The problem is Cuomo's experience, and the thing that we most remember him for just happened 5 years ago. That's not a pretty good experience. So he was in a vulnerable spot, and that's why he got beat. Now, some say that Mr. Mamdani has alienated those who are pro-Israel over some past statements that have been seen as anti-Israel. This one I understand because a lot of people, especially in places that have heavy populations of people who are either supporters or actively against Israel on any side of that conversation, which we've been talking about all this week, that you're either going to get a bunch of people happy about you or a bunch of people angry about you, but everyone's going to have an opinion.
Something happened today.
What happened?
I spilled.
What'd you spill?
I didn't spill anything. Mommy just spilled.
What'd she spill?
It just spilled by herself.
By herself?
Because there was ice. There's coffee everywhere. There's coffee pieces.
No. Is everybody okay?
No.
No?
Just come look.
I had to finish my live stream. Is mommy okay?
No.
No?
Nobody's in the kitchen.
I think she's okay. I think she would tell me if she wasn't okay. All right. So do you want to sit here with me or are you going back out there? Can you sit here with me? I think mommy might need some space. How about that?
No.
No? She doesn't need space?
Huh?
Can you stay in here?
No.
Okay, you still here though. So you staying in here or not?
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm going out the door.
Okay. Close the door. Thank you. All right. So I can understand how there can be some strong pushback from those who are supporters of Israel, and New York has a pretty strong population of that, but they also got a strong population going in the opposite direction. As a matter of fact, I used to be a member of this JCC. Down here, they have a bunch of them. It's called the Jewish Community Center. I'm sure they had them in other places. And JCC is a nice gym. And I still get their emails. And just like 2-3 days ago, I got an email from them. I'm not a member of their gym anymore. This was years ago I was a member, but I'm on their email list still. They sent an email out maybe like Monday of this week. And it said they're increasing the security measures inside of the JCC. So you got to have your membership card with you to get into the gym. And they're going to have new checkpoints inside the facility. You enter it through any part of the facility. There's different checkpoints you got to go through to even get into the building. And if you're a guest, you got to bring your ID and they got to take all your information if you're a guest. And I'm asking myself, I wonder why they're stepping it up like that. And I wasn't really thinking about it. But then a moment later, I thought about it. Oh, they're stepping it up because we can say that people in the Jewish/pro-Israel community are thinking like there are people who will come into our places where they know is a lot of us and they may try to do something that they ain't supposed to do. So that's why they're increasing these security measures in these types of places. And I understand it because this kind of stuff does happen. Anyway, I'm just bringing that up because it just came to my mind while I was thinking about this. So rent caps and fare free transits, policies that are popular with struggling locals. So this would be popular for me too. I mean, I would love that you say, the rent can't be raised. So whatever you're paying, that you're stuck at that number and it never can go up. Great. I would gladly take that. As long as I'm not in the real estate business and I'm renting people homes, then I'm happy with it. But if someone's in the real estate business and renting people homes, I'm not too happy with that. I'm not too happy with that one. Fare free transit sounds like a good idea until you realize that they got a $7 billion payroll. Who's going to pay it? Where's that money coming from? How are you going to pay all those people if they make the fares free? Now, understand, they are still able to pay through their budget the money that goes to the workers. Not like every single dollar is coming from the fees. But at the same time, it ain't like none of it's coming from the fees. How are they going to pay? I need somebody to answer this question. How are they going to pay the workers of MTA when they're not charging anybody to ride anymore? How are they going to keep the tracks fixed? How are they going to fix the flat tires on buses? All of these things cost money. Every time something goes wrong, money has to be spent. What are they going to do with workers' compensation? Some worker gets injured on the job and they sue the company and now they got to pay out insurance and now their insurance rates go up. Where's that money coming from? This money's just going to come out of thin air. This is the same challenge that happened with Kamala Harris when she was running for president in 2024. And around September and October of 2024, it was clear that Kamala was not doing well. We're at 41,000 likes, folks. Let's get to 50,000 likes. Get the likes up, please. It was clear that Kamala's campaign was not doing well. Her internal polling showed that she was losing after her initial vibes streak. After that died down and people started looking logically and rationally at what she was offering, it wasn't looking too good for her. And her team decided that she needed to start throwing out there all these handouts that she was going to give to people for voting for her. So she said, we're going to give you this and this tax credit, and you're going to get that, and we're going to do this for black males, and we're going to do this for entrepreneurs. She's basically started throwing out all these things that she was going to hand out to you if she won the election. And this is all meant to entice you to vote for her. And again, this worked in New York. This guy just did it, and it just worked. The thing is, the same thing doesn't work everywhere. It doesn't work nationally as well as it works locally. Locally, in the right place, this works. Nationally, it does not work if done the wrong way. Kamala did this in a way that wasn't working because in the world that we're in today, what she offered in 2024 would have worked in maybe 2012, maybe 2008, definitely. Wouldn't have worked, and I doubt it would have worked in 2020 or 2016. Wouldn't work in 2024. Why? Because we had too much access to information where as soon as she put that out and said, I'm going to give you this, this, and this, somebody else came out and said, this is bullshit, that's bullshit, that's bullshit, and here's why. And they explained it in a way that everybody could understand. And it basically knocked down these handouts that she was offering. And what this guy did, again, on the local level was the exact same thing, but it worked. So these things all sound good when you're talking to the right audience. How is this going to work, though? How is he actually going to pay the workers? How are you going to pay these people who you're basically going to take money out of? You're taking money out of the system. How are you still going to put money in the pockets of the people who are doing the work? This money ain't coming out of nowhere. Again, they got a $115 billion budget. They're already at budget. Where's the money coming from? Out of your pocket. They're going to tax you. That's one thing they're going to do is tax you in New York. Notice he didn't say anything about that. All the things he didn't mention, just assume you're about to get screwed. That's what I would say. That's my word of the letter of the law is what I would say when it comes to these kind of things. When a politician is throwing things at you and all the things they're going to do for you, everything that they don't mention, they don't talk about at all, assume that's where you're getting screwed. Because if they mention a whole bunch of things that seem like easy handouts to you, that you don't have to do anything to get them, understand there's no free lunches. That's a law of economics. It's not my theory. It's a law of economics. Everything has a cost. So the cost of these things that they're going to give you is everything that they didn't mention to you. Because if they told you all that, i.e. the fine print, then you wouldn't be so excited to vote for this individual. That's the way it works in politics, in case any of you didn't know. This is the way it works. So critics argue that these same policies are unrealistic and they would tank the budget. And I say that's true. So I guess you can call me a critic. These policies are unrealistic. Can he actually do this? No. Can he get this through the state legislature? No. Does he have the money to do any of these things? No. Is he actually going to be able to follow through on all of these things he claimed, even in his very brief social media bio? Let me read it one more time, what he said. Freeze the rent, make public transportation fast and free. Maybe you can make it fast, but let's just say it's free. And I'm going to give you free universal health care. Everybody in New York is going to get all of the above. Can he do these things? No. If he tries to do them, will there be an extreme cost to you that was not told to you up front? Oh, absolutely, yes. There's a yes for you. So if you thought I was just saying no to everything, there's a yes for you right there. Ain't no free lunches, ladies and gentlemen. Anytime somebody offers you a free lunch, understand there's a hook inside that lunch. Any of you ever been fishing before? All right, this is how you get fish. This is how you catch fish. How do you catch a fish? You offer them some bait, something that seems like an easy meal, and then the fish goes for the easy meal, and you get the last laugh. All right, that's the way it works in politics if someone's offering you something free. Ain't nothing free, especially from an entity that does not have excess money. They ain't got no extra money, so how they giving you something for free? Now, this guy comes off relatable, grounded, and driven by people over politics. So, of course he does. That's how you win elections. Let me say again, this is what they say about him. He seems relatable. He seems grounded. He's driven by helping the people more than he is driven by playing the political game. And compared to his opponents, Mr. Cuomo and Mayor Adams, yes, he is very much those things. Again, it's the law of contrast, folks. It's not that he has to be so much these things on an absolute level. It's just he has to be these things compared to his competition. Compared to his competition, he does these things excellently. He seems relatable, grounded, and he's much more a regular person than he is a politician compared to those guys he is. And this is how you win elections, by the way. And if you want to get into politics, this guy's giving you a master class on how to do it. Do these things. Now, in certain towns, let me be clear. You're in San Francisco, this will work. You're in New York City, this will work. I'm trying to think of another city that's very progressive. I might even say my hometown of Philadelphia, but that might be a little bit of a reach. But where else? San Diego? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Los Angeles, possibly. Los Angeles is a possible. Portland, possible. Seattle, possible. And that's pretty much it. I just gave you all the cities where this might work. All right. Maybe Newark, New Jersey. Newark, New Jersey is a possible. Where else? Maybe Trenton, New Jersey is a possible. I think that's it. That's the whole list. All right. So if you want to run for mayor in any one of those cities, you got a chance. Oh, Chicago. Yes. Chicago is a good one. That's one coastal city that is a non-coastal city that this will work in. Maybe Detroit as well, possibly. So he's viewed by some as all ideals and no operational know-how. Oh, really? I would agree. Does this guy really have operational know-how on how things work in a city like New York? I think he has some know-how. He has more than the average person, more than the voters. But does he know what it's actually going to be like when he gets in there and the realities of actually doing the shit that he was talking about? I think either he does and he just completely ignored it and ran the campaign that he wanted to run, which is beautiful, or he does not know and therefore he didn't have to ignore anything because he doesn't know in the first place and he ran the campaign that he wanted to run. Either way, we got to the same place. So his operational know-how is probably not as great as someone who's actually been mayor. And again, these facts don't matter. Facts don't matter, ladies and gentlemen. I explained this to you a few minutes ago. Facts do not matter. Feelings matter, emotions matter, persuasion matters, and influence matters. When you get those four things down to a science, then you can tell people the facts. But if you try to open the conversation by telling people the facts, they are tuning you out because facts require thinking, and most people don't want to think. So he became a symbol of change for New York's immigrant and youth populations. Is this true? Absolutely, it's true. Eric Adams is a black guy from New York. Cuomo is a white guy from wherever he's from. This guy's an immigrant. He's clearly an immigrant. He has made sure you know that he's an immigrant. His name sounds like an immigrant. And there's a lot of immigrants in New York, and there's more and more coming in. And he's 33 years old compared to Adams, who's probably 50-something, and Cuomo, who's probably 50-something. All right. Again, the law of contrast, he positioned himself perfectly for what he just did. This is perfect positioning. Marketing-wise, this guy gets an A+. Now, execution is a whole different story. He didn't win yet, but let's see. When he goes into office, which I'm assuming is going to be early 2026, we'll see how he executes on all the stuff that he was talking about. Because, see, by then, a lot of people are not going to be as excited about all the things that he said as they are right now. See, the excitement, you got to get people excited to win an election. You get them excited by triggering their feelings. That's how you win an election. Now, whether you actually follow through on the shit that you said, by the time you either do or don't follow through, people are no longer that excited about what you said during your campaign. They pretty much forgot most of what you said. Anyway, most of what you said, they forgot about it. So opponents claim that his vision could compromise public safety and it could compromise law enforcement. Could, I mean, that word could is doing all the heavy lifting here. I mean, you can put the word could in front of anything and it'd be true. All right, the rain today in Miami could flood the entire town and have us living like Noah's Ark. It could, but is that actually going to happen? Probably not. So this word could is doing all the lifting here. It could compromise public safety. It could compromise law enforcement. Well, I think public safety and law enforcement are already compromised in New York. We got any New Yorkers in here? Give me a yes or a no if I'm right about that. Is public safety and law enforcement already compromised in New York? Yes or no? Okay, so I'm getting a couple of yeses in here. So people are already saying yes. No, you said no. So I got a yes, then they changed it to a no. Then I got a yes. Then someone said they'll just go to the suburbs or to Newark. Well, then they ain't in New York. Michael said the sun could explode. Yeah, it could. I mean, the word could. You put the word could in anything, then you could pretty much get a affirmative statement to anything you say. So Traditional said my ex New York. Gino said my eyes blue. No, they're not. That's probably just a tie. Carolyn, yes. Have you met a black man with blue eyes? So why are you asking me that question? So I think the public safety and the law enforcement are already compromised in New York. So could it? Yeah, okay. That's kind of it's a salamander-ish statement that people use in politics all the time, which is what another thing that annoys me about politics. So they say he rejected corporate money and he won with people, not with PACs. He rejected corporate money. I don't know. I don't need to know the whole story about that. If he rejected corporate money, I don't know too many politicians who reject money. in my experience. Now, I'm not knee deep in politics, but I don't know too many politicians who reject money. Now, maybe the story is he rejected corporate money. And I'm not saying he didn't say no to somebody, but when you're a politician, to win an election, it costs a lot of money. You know how much money it costs to win an election in New York City? It costs you anywhere from $10 to $100 million to win an election in New York City. $10 to $100 million to win a mayoral election in New York City. So I don't think he rejected too much. I don't think he did too much rejecting of money. That sounds like a good story. I don't think that's the reality. Again, he might have rejected somebody. So if some corporation called him and said, we'll offer you $100, and he said no and hung up, okay, then technically he rejected corporate money just from them. But if 99 more corporations called him and offered money, he took it, then again, you're kind of playing fast and loose with the language here. So you got to be careful with these politicians. A lot of them are pretty good with the language games, and they'll just talk circles around you if you don't know how to catch them in their bullshit. So did he reject corporate money? I'm sure he rejected somebody, but it takes $100 million to win an election in New York. He ain't turning too much money down. He's 33 years old. I'm assuming he isn't independently wealthy, and even if he is, he ain't spending his own money. No politician does. In the business world, it's all about OPM. OPM stands for other people's money. All you do is spend other people's money. He ain't turning down too much money. So I'm going to reject this point that he rejected corporate money. It sounds good, but I doubt that's the real story. Now, he faces resistance from both Republicans and establishment Democrats. Yes, he does. Sounds pretty much like Donald Trump. He's facing resistance from both sides of the political aisle, even the side that he's allegedly on, because they are traditional and he's coming in with a new approach. And again, Donald Trump laid the blueprint for this. Now, many of you probably looking at this guy and saying, well, he's nothing like Donald Trump. On the surface, he's not. But in terms of approach, he's exactly like Donald Trump. He's coming grassroots. He's talking to the everyday person. He is looking at the people on his side, allegedly, and rejecting even them. And he's positioning himself as a rebel who's going against the entire cause of what politics is about. And I'm technically on this side, but I'm not even with most of them. And this works because a lot of Americans are just tired of politics as usual. We are tired of politicians. We're tired of traditional politicians on the right and traditional politicians on the left. This guy realized that. He recognized it. And he just said, how can I do my version of what Donald Trump did? He did his version of it. He did the Democratic Socialist version of what Donald Trump did as a conservative Republican. Same thing. He flipped the script a little bit, but he used the script at the same time. This is genius. This guy actually did a good job. Now, I'm not saying what he did, what he's claiming he's going to do is going to work, nor do I think it's a good idea. But I'm just talking on a marketing side. When it comes to winning the election and saying what he needed to say, let's get the 60,000 likes, please, on TikTok. Saying what he needed to say to win, this guy did an excellent job. And those of you who live in New York, I'm sorry. But he did a good job of doing what he had to do to win the election. He has reignited civic engagement in communities that have stopped voting. This is one thing you absolutely have to do to win an election. Donald Trump did this in 2016. He got a bunch of people who had said, you know what? I'm not even voting. Corny J. Dom, thank you for the goats. He got a bunch of people who said the same thing Donald Trump did. Let me explain it. A bunch of people said, I'm not even going to vote because I'm tired of what's happening politically. I don't like the last leader. I don't like the current leader. I don't like the future prospects of leaders. I don't like anybody. So you know what? I'm just going to not engage in voting. And then he somehow, some way, Donald Trump and Mr. Mamdani, they were able to speak in such a way that got people who had basically checked out of the political game. They got them engaged again by saying things that they wanted to hear, that they liked, and speaking directly to their core needs. And those people said, you know what? I'll get off the couch and vote for this person. And that's how he was able. This is one of the main reasons why he won. He got a bunch of people who didn't want to vote, and they voted for him. And by the way, for those of you who don't understand, in politics, there's a block of people who vote in every election. I'm talking about the voters. There's a block of people who just vote. They just see it as a civic duty to vote. I have the right to vote. I'm black. We didn't have the right to vote. I'm white. I got to vote. Whatever. I got to make my voice heard. Whatever. There's a bunch of people who just have that idea, that belief. Every election, they're going to vote. Doesn't matter who's running. They're going to have their say because they believe that they should do it. Then there's a bunch of people who are either or. And there's also, you got the people who ain't going to vote no matter what. And they can't vote. Then you got a bunch of either or people. Elections are won by galvanizing the either or people. It's not by the people who always vote. People who always vote, they tend to vote in similar ways. So you're always going to vote on the left, always vote on the right, or this person, that person, this direction, that direction. That's not how you win. How you win is you get the people who would sit on the couch and not vote at all, You get them excited, you get them engaged, and then they go vote, and they're voting only because you got them engaged. They vote for you. You get enough of those people off the couch, you win your election. What happened in 2024, one reason why Kamala lost, there were many reasons why she lost. None, not the less of which is she was just a poor candidate. But aside from that, was that she wasn't able to get the either or people off the couch. A lot of either or people decided I'm not voting. I'm not excited enough. Maybe they're not that much of a fan of Trump, but he's not that terrible that they had to go vote against him. And at the same time, Kamala didn't get them excited enough that I got to go vote for her. So they just said, whatever happens, happens. And she lost. If she was able to get more of those either or people to vote, she would have won. And Donald Trump was able to get enough of them to go vote for him. That's why he won. So the battle in politics is always which candidate is better at getting the either or people to go and actually vote. Whoever does a better job of that usually wins. Trump did it in 2024. Biden did it better in 2020. And Trump did it better in 2016. That's how it works. Obama did it better twice in a row. Bush did it. This is how it works. And Mr. Mamdani, he did it this time. Media critics say that this guy's more performance than policy. I would say at this point, and at this point, always in a political campaign, every politician is more performance than policy. All of them are. When Donald Trump got that bullet fired at his head in Butler, PA in the summer of 2024, and he got up and said, fight, 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 was that policy? No, it was performance. And did that performance of him doing that, regardless of what you think about the shot, there's a lot of people trying to say it was staged, whatever. The fact that he got up and said, fight, 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 was a performance. And that performance got a fuck ton of people excited about Donald Trump. And it's one of the main reasons why he won. That had nothing to do with his policy. Nothing. He didn't say anything about policy. All he did was say, fight, fight, fight. That performance got him a bunch of people to go vote for him. And in politics, folks, this is marketing. All right. Political campaigns are marketing campaigns. These are sales campaigns. That's what this is. This is a sales pitch. And to sell people something, you need to trigger their emotions, and then you justify it with logic. Any of you who works in sales, you know this very well. To sell something, you have to give people an emotional reason to buy, and then you give them some logical justification so that when their emotions calm down and the emotion simmers down, they still have some logical justification to still be able to justify the decision that they made. If you don't give them those logical justifications for their emotional decision, when the emotions relax and they wake up the next day and they're no longer emotional, they're going to look at the decision that they made and say, why did I do that? But if you give them the logical reasons, then they already have them. And you can provide the logical reasons to them. This is the marketing job. Any of you who's in marketing and in sales, you should understand this really well. And if you don't understand it, you're going to struggle in sales until you get it and until you start executing on it. And this is how politics work. Get people emotionally engaged, then come up with some logical justifications for the emotion, and that's good enough. In 2020, Joe Biden's reason to get people engaged was, y'all don't want Donald Trump anymore. That was his whole campaign. Y'all don't want Donald Trump anymore, so vote for me. All the reasons people voted for Joe Biden had nothing to do with Joe Biden. They were all just logical arguments against Donald Trump. He got enough people to go with that he was able to win the 2020 election. All that said, folks, here's what we're going to do now. I've been trying to go with no bathroom breaks the last couple of days. I've decided that this is not a sustainable idea. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run to the restroom real quick. It's going to take 90 seconds. Y'all just wait 90 seconds of silence, because when I put anything on and let it play, then I get all kinds of blowback from TikTok that tells me I can't be posting, I can't play repurposed material or some nonsense that they gave me. So give me 90 seconds. I'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves. The subject that y'all should talk about between now and then is Donald Trump saying on TV the other day that he was mad at Israel and Iran because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Did y'all see that little clip? They don't know what the fuck they're doing. I'll be back in 90 seconds, talk about that, and then we'll take questions. 90 seconds. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. So somebody took that clip, just that little section of that Donald Trump audio from 2 days ago, and then they put it on a loop for like 33 seconds, and they gave me some comic relief for about 15 minutes yesterday. So let's get into the comments here. Let's see. I didn't see anything in Rumble Studio, Facebook. I don't think I saw anything on IG. I already responded to Edward over on IG. All right, TikTok is on you all. I'm reading from the oldest to the newest comment, so I'm not ignoring your comment. I might ignore your comment, but I'm not actively ignoring your comment. I'm just reading from the oldest to the newest. So if you leave a comment right now, I'm looking at the oldest ones first. Blaze Roberson said, damn, I just missed it. It just got pushed out. I think you're giving me a compliment, so thank you, Blaze. Kat said, that's terrible. I don't know what you're referring to. We're at 67,000 likes to get to 70,000. Catastrophic said, I'm sorry, I need to block you. Kate, you didn't block me. You're still listening right now. Jonathan Ferris said, new here. Are you the author of the books behind you? Yes, I am. And more that you can't see. Abby said, socialism is the N-word ideology. Not the N-word is in the other N-word. Our Absri said, who's going to pay it? The money is there by taxes. Well, that sounds like a good idea. I don't think that's true. So that will mean New York has a surplus of money just laying around because the money from taxes is already getting used. So all these new things that he's offering that are not currently part of the budget, where's that money coming from? He's talking about excess money. Where's it coming from? So there'll have to be excess taxes. Again, there's no such thing as a free lunch, everybody. This is just a universal economic law. There is no free lunch. So where's his money coming from? Only place it can come from is out of your pocket. Or he's going to give less to your pocket, i.e. lowering how much money you make in order to pay for these things that he's allegedly going to do. Or he's not going to do it at all. One of the three. Tiffany said transportation allowance. What does that even mean? Savion Johnson said, I think he's going to have a rude awakening when the rich people start pressing him. Oh, yes. I don't think it's an awakening. I think he already knows it's going to happen. I don't think that's news to him. David said, that's what my taxes are supposed to be for. Your taxes are already for that. Again, the money from taxes in New York are already paying for things. Where's this excess money coming from? Where's it going to come from? The money from your taxes are already spoken for. So now he's about to say, I'm going to make all buses and trains free. So all the money that New York City, let's see if we can figure out how much money that is. How much money does New York City collect every year from the fares that people pay to ride the trains and the buses? Because this will help us get to the bottom of this. Actually, it won't help us get to the bottom of it, but it'll give us a solid foundation for this conversation. He says, I'm going to make the trains and buses free. So that means he's going to take X amount of dollars and the city will no longer have that money. So according to a bunch of research sites, this is ChatGPT researching this. In 2019, MTA's fare box revenue reached $6.4 billion with a B dollars. That's almost enough money to pay all the workers that we just did the calculation on. The amount of money that they pay to workers is $7.5 billion. The amount of money they collect in fares is $6.4. In recent years, fare recovery has dropped with total fare box and toll receipts around $6.87 billion in the operating budget. Fare evasion is a major drag, meaning people riding but not paying. That costs them about $800 million every year. So riders contribute $6 to $7 billion with a B every single year. And then the usable fare revenue is effectively reduced by large-scale evasion losses, totaling another $7 to $8 billion before accounting for this leakage. So they actually collect about $7, but it should be about $8. So they're losing about $1 billion every year by people not paying. So that money would pretty much pay all the workers. Almost. It's not quite there, but it's close. So what he's saying is that it's going to be free for you to ride, which means the $7 billion that New York collects every single year from people riding the trains and buses, they're saying you don't have to pay anymore. So we just slashed $7 billion out of the money that we have to play with every year. Who is replacing that $7 billion? That question must be answered. And I'm sure somebody asked him this question on the campaign trail, and he probably had a pretty slick answer to walk around it. But that is a legitimate question that I don't think he has a really good answer for, because the money ain't just coming out of nowhere. Where's the money coming from? So S-Dub said taxing corporations that operate in New York, the wealthiest companies in the world. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. S-Dubs, you ever heard of Bernie Sanders? You ever heard of him? He's been around for 50 years. Taxing the corporations that have all the money, that'll solve all of our problems. Bernie Sanders has been trying this for 35 years. Catmandu said, cannot tax your way to prosperity. Economics 101. Yes. Again, this has been tried, ladies and gentlemen. These are not new ideas. All he did was take an old idea, repackage it, and put it into a new package, and people bought it. And he sold it to a bunch of people who don't know that it's an old idea. Amsbury said, these questions are never asked when NYPD's budget expands every year. Oh, these questions are asked. They're asked. The questions do get asked. They just don't get answered. Amsbury, the reason you don't know about it is because nobody has an answer to the question. Traditional said, Dre, you know that's politics talking junk to get you to vote. Yes, I know. I'm explaining this to the people. Rachel said, have you spoken on the grocery store idea yet? I didn't even really touch on it, but what he's claiming is that he's going to take over. Let's see if we can get some context on that, because I didn't really get a ton of context. Give me the context of what Zoran Mamdani is claiming he's going to do in New York City when it comes to taking over the grocery stores. So let's see if we can get a little bit more context, and I will talk about it. Let's see what we can find. We're at 72,000 likes. Let's step it up. Rose says she didn't do nothing for FBA males. Yeah, well, she was claiming she was going to do something for black people, but we know she wasn't talking FBA, Row 23, because Kamala Harris is not FBA. So she damn sure didn't give a damn about no FBA anything, because she ain't FBA herself. And last time I checked, her husband ain't either. Carolyn said, why would the white educated elitists give a damn how the blue collar worker is going to get paid? You talking about Zoran Mandani? He's not white. Who are you referring to, Carolyn? Ashley said, we literally just have to collect the taxes that the rich currently owe, not raise the rate. How do they owe taxes? What taxes are you talking about? I'm not sure that's a reality. Size doesn't matter, said increase in 2% corporate tax rate. Well, you know what happens when you increase taxes on big companies that have a lot of money? They find ways around the tax, number one, or they find ways to completely avoid getting taxed, i.e. they leave the jurisdiction where they're being taxed. So that sounds like a good idea in theory. And again, size doesn't matter. I don't know if you're new to the political thing, but this has been tried for 100 years. It has not worked. Rose says she helped illegals and LGBT. Yeah, yes, she did. I agree. Well, she was working for Biden, so we got to credit that to Biden. She was just doing what he told her to do. J2 Hilarious said, it's just talk to get in office. Yes, but what's interesting is that don't people already know that? So why did he win? That's the reason why I'm saying this is still a masterclass in campaigning. It still worked. Sign said, it's not coming from our pockets, it's your friends' pockets. What do you mean by that? Mako said, why are you asking this? Didn't the future governor already address this? Which question are you referring to? S-Dub said he's going to tax people earning more than $1 million for the year. Again, have you heard of Bernie Sanders? Politicians have been throwing this concept around for decades. And every time they try it, there is immediate response. There's an immediate response. People who are making, let's say someone making $1 million, according to what you said here. Let's assume that what you're saying is accurate. People making $1 million, he said he's going to increase the taxes on them. You think people who make $1 million is going to sit there and say, oh, well, I guess I just got to pay another $100,000 in taxes. I guess that's just what it is. No, they're not going to just take it. How do you think they got to $1 million in the first place? By sitting there and just letting people take their money? No, they're going to respond. They will leave so that there are no millionaires to tax. Now, where's the money coming from? See, this is the problem that he hasn't addressed. And I don't think he can address it because there's no answer. Got Liberal said, socialism is a precursor to communism and the first step in the Marxist theory. Well, pretty much I can see that. Jonathan said, turning NYC red by Dem's own doing. Yeah, and if NYC turns red, then it's going to be hard for the Democrats to win another federal election for a long time. Steven says, better than Cuomo still in the money. I get it. I mean, there's a lot of people voted for him because he just didn't want Cuomo. I get it. Traditional said, NY writes so many parking tickets is crazy. Yeah, they do. Jake said, this is all valid advice if you're a billionaire. If you're not, you're fine. No, I disagree. The reason I disagree, Jake, is because even if you're not a billionaire, billionaires own companies that provide jobs to people who are not billionaires. And if they remove their company from a place because they don't want to face the taxes, then a bunch of people are going to lose their jobs. This is the reason why these concepts of let's just tax the people with money always sound good in theory, but they don't work so well in real life because you start trickle down affecting people who are not billionaires. The very people who you are claiming to want to help with your brilliant idea, When you go actually execute it, you find out you're hurting those same people. But it's not a direct way of hurting them. You hurt them indirectly. Well, Heck said Mondani has some explaining to do. Well, he's never going to do it. S-Dub said, does this guy just rant? And he's talking about me. Yes, I just rant. That's what I do. And then I answer questions after I rant. Savion said, the rich people are about to make an example of him. Well, he won't be the first example. Again, this is not a new concept. B&D Instacar said, are you a Trump loyalist? No, I'm not even a Trump supporter. I have no political affiliation, no politician, no political side. Jake said, have you considered we're fine with paying for this stuff? Who is we? Now, we might be the people who voted for this guy, but do you speak for everybody? Jiminy said, the rent is too damn high. Yeah, everybody says that. Jake said, we know it's not actually free. We're just fine with our taxes going towards that. Well, if they're taking taxes from you, Jake, then it really doesn't matter how you feel about it. Not really. What matters is if they start taxing you more. So that means you have less money. So if I'm paying a tax, if I go to Whole Foods and buy $100 worth of stuff and I got to pay a $8 tax on that $100 worth of stuff that I pay for, I don't really care or even think about where the $8 of tax is going because you're taking it either way. But if that tax goes from $8 to $12, now I'm noticing. I'm probably not going to notice that, but metaphorically get my point. If the tax goes from $8 to $20, now I'm noticing because now that's more money coming out of my pocket. Now, if there's the money that you're already taking and you're distributing it in other ways, okay, so what? You're already taking my money, so I don't care what you do. But if you start taking more of my money, now you're going to get more people's attention. So, Jake, I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to here. You're saying you're okay paying more in taxes, having more of your money taken? If you're okay with it, then I think you're in the minority. Susan said, I don't know you, but you're spot on. Thank you, Susan. Mr. Ohio J said he probably meant putting more buses on the route to make it run fast, but that still costs money too. Yes, the bus costs money. The gas costs money. He's increasing traffic, and he has to pay the people who drive the bus. Where's that money coming from? Again, these things are, he hasn't answered any of these questions because all this stuff sounds really good in theory. Absree said, there ain't no free lunch unless you're rich and get yourself subsidized and tax breaks. Well, how do you become rich? You become rich by providing, quote unquote, lunch to a whole lot of people that they're willing to pay for. So people talk about the rich or billionaires as if these people just had a bunch of money just fall out the sky on their heads. They became that by providing something that people were willing to pay for. That's how you get the money. And the government gives you tax subsidies and tax breaks because you are providing so many opportunities, i.e. jobs, to people who are not rich. That's the reason why the government incentivizes you to keep doing it. So the reason Elon Musk gets a bunch of tax breaks from the government is because Elon Musk, first of all, provides a bunch of benefits to the general public. Electric cars came from Tesla. All right, electric cars are a thing because Tesla didn't even patent all the knowledge that they had on electric vehicles. That's why every company has electric vehicles now, because Elon's company put that out there. I'm not saying Elon himself, but his company put that out there. And because they employ so many people and because they do so many things that helps the economy, that the government says, y'all helping us so much, we're going to give you tax breaks to incentivize you to keep doing things to help the everyday person. And that way, Elon and his company keeps doing what they're doing. It's an incentive from the government. Again, I just told you all, there's no such thing as a free lunch. So how all of a sudden y'all think the billionaires and the rich, quote unquote, are getting free lunches? They're not getting free lunches. They have to give something to get what they get, the same way you got to give something to get what you get. They just do it on a higher scale. But again, there's no free lunch. So people, all of a sudden, you all have this warped idea that people who have a bunch of money are getting a free lunch. Again, how do they get the money? By giving something that was worth money. Why is Apple a $1 billion company? Because all of us got the fucking phones. Why do we have the phones? Because we want them. And if you want something, what do? You pay for it. That's how Apple got all the money. Do they get breaks from the government? Yes. Why do they get breaks from the government? Because they are causing the economy to move because they make money move. They make money move by doing sales. Every time you buy a phone from Apple, you pay taxes. Where's that money go? To the government. Government's like, we love this company. Look at all this money they're making us. Let's get them a tax break so they keep doing it. Again, folks, there are no free lunches. Traditional said, NY is tired of the Cuomo family. I think that's pretty much true. COX said, Mom Dami is the reaction to the far left to the far right that's so prevalent in U.S. politics at the moment. I don't know what far left and far right even mean. Why do people even say those things? People say far left and far right to kind of use one side as a pejorative. We could just say the left and the right. Now, I do believe he is leaning pretty heavily progressively, but what do you mean by the far right? Adam's Garden said, "Good morning. Why does his religion bother so much?" Because I just told you the connection to 9/11. It's an illogical connection, but it is a connection that people have made, and that's the reason why I said we're not doing it. If you want to criticize him, you can't do it off that. You can't do it off that. That's like a black person saying, "Well, I can't support this person because they're white," or vice versa. You can't. We're not going to do that. That's race hustling, even though it's technically not a race. Race hustling is an umbrella statement, and when you try to use someone's religion, race, or nationality against them, I call that race hustling. S Dub said, "I work nights in Manhattan. I walk the streets all night. It's safe." Well, it depends. S Dubs, are you a man? Number one. Number two, what's your physical stature? Number three, are you physically capable of fighting? All right. Safety is relative. Jonathan said, "Florida population will get much bigger if he is elected." Well, Florida's population is going to get bigger no matter what happens in New York, because Florida is a beautiful place to live. We have no income tax and we have great weather. So Florida is always going to increase. As long as we keep those three things, I think those things are staying. Tristan said, "I lived in NY for years." Shout out to New York. Fryer said, "Thoughts on the new mayor?" You talking about Mondani? We've been talking about him for the last hour. You just get here? Adam said, "Why are Americans against Mondani trying to help Americans?" Well, first of all, he's running for mayor of New York. He's not trying to help Americans. He's trying to help New York. And are people against him? I don't know if people are directly against him. What they're against are the things that against. People are pushing back against his claims because his claims sound amazing. The problem is they don't pass the smell test. That's what people are against Adam's Garden. So your question is improperly framed. S Dub said, "This is public information. You are lying." What am I lying about? Jonathan said, "Giving everything for free is not helping Americans because ain't shit free in life." Yeah, so giving everything for free is not even a real thing. It's a concept, but it doesn't actually happen. KP said he needs to win. Well, he's pretty much going to win. I mean, you win the Democrat, you're winning in New York. That's how it works. Hertz Donut on YouTube said he's better than Cuomo, in my opinion. I'm right wing, but I'd rather have someone with a real ideology than a centrist that just wants money and status. And see, this is what cause a lot of people to vote for him, because they're like, "All right, is either Cuomo or Adams or him? Okay, I'll take Cuomo. I'll take this guy. I'll take Mondani. I get it. He chose the right race to run in and the right opponents." We're at 85,000 likes, folks. Let's get to 90. KP said, "Mondani is for the people, not the establishment." Yeah, that sounds good. Sounds good. Every politician says that. Barack Obama said it. Hillary Clinton said it. Donald Trump said it. Joe Biden said it. Kamala said it. They all say that. Have you seen this movie before? Jonathan said, "If AOC is your biggest fan, Houston, we have a problem." Well, Jonathan, I mean, he just won. AOC has won elections. AOC is pretty popular. So what it looks like is America is starting to lean a little bit more in the direction of these folks. That's what it's looking like. Now, again, New York is just New York. But AOC is popular. Bernie Sanders is popular. I'm not saying I agree with them, but we cannot deny their popularity. Adam said, "Last 100 years, we saw why politicians can't get rid of national debt." Well, nobody can get rid of national debt. And Mondani just became a politician, by the way. He just ran for office. So he's now a politician. So he's one of them. So what are you saying? KP said, "Mondani will win, just so you know." KP, you must have just got in here. We've been talking about this since yesterday. I think you're new. Jonathan said, "The government does not have the right to tell someone how much they can charge for their property." Well, Mondani says otherwise. Ty said, "Mondani did a great job on youth outreach." Yes, he did, which was very smart of him because Cuomo's this old white guy, and he went for the young people. Great idea. The law of contrast. Sean said, "If you increase supply, the prices come down." Generally speaking, that's correct. Adams Garden says $7.25 an hour since 2008, but rent prices went up 30%, and Mondani to blame. Uh-oh, Adam, you just got the straw man of the day. Congratulations to Adam for Straw Man of the Day award. This is an award that we give out every day to somebody in the comments who commits a straw man fallacy. The first one that I notice is usually more than one. Straw man fallacy is when you take something that I said, you rephrase it into something that I didn't even say, and then you argue against it, or you try to ridicule it, or you state it sarcastically. And this is what Adam just did. That the minimum wage has been $7.25 an hour since 2008. Rent prices have gone up 30%. Let's assume that those are both factually true. Doesn't matter, but let's assume that they are. And Mamdani to blame. That's when it became a straw man, when you said that. No one said that this guy's to blame because, first of all, he hasn't even been around. Secondly, the fact that he's claiming that he is going to freeze rents does not make fiscal sense, doesn't make financial sense, regardless of the minimum wage, regardless of how much rent has gone up. It doesn't make fiscal sense. And how is he going to make that work? Those are the questions. It's not saying that he's to blame. So it's an immature argument, and it's also a straw man. So Adam, congratulations on your award. The Indicator is Pre said, bro, you need to make a YouTube channel. I got a YouTube channel. I'm live streaming on YouTube right now, as a matter of fact. But TikTok is just the biggest audience. I'm live streaming on all these platforms at the same time, and I get like way more people on TikTok than all the other platforms put together, even though I'm saying the exact same thing. So I still have not figured out that phenomenon. But I do have a YouTube channel. The replays to all of these lives are on my YouTube channel. The link's in my profile on TikTok, The Indicator. Traditional said, speak, Dre, you know it. Well, thank you. E8 said, what do you think of Donald Trump's false electors scheme that led up to January 6th? So we did a whole lot talking about January 6th more than once. So E8, if you're new around here, check my YouTube channel. I've talked about January 6th more than once, a bunch of times. The Indicator said, democratic socialism is an oxymoron. Well, that's what he calls himself. It's right there on his X profile, democratic socialist. Adam said, Kumo never left his limousine while campaigning. I get what you're saying. Again, that's why he lost. Sissy said, is Diddy going to be free next week? I'm going to do a whole live on the Diddy case as soon as they do the closing arguments, and then they send it to the jury, which I think is going to happen either today or tomorrow, but it might take longer. But the defense said they're not even calling a witness. So the defense in Diddy's case is not even going to call a witness, which is, that's the defense pretty much saying, this is just my theory, they're pretty much saying that the prosecution case is so weak that we don't even have to try to fight it. We're just going to let that stand, and we're going to send it to the jury. I predict, as of today, all right, this is before hearing closing argument, I predict Diddy's going to win. I predict he's going to be free. I think he's going to beat the case. Now, some don't think that, but I think he's going to beat the case. I think he should beat the case. I don't think this case is strong enough. I think all they did was try to attack his character and sully his reputation, which they did successfully, but he's not on trial for his character or his reputation. I don't think they made a good enough case. That does not mean he's going to win. If I had to predict, I think he is going to win, but it doesn't guarantee that he'll win. He might still lose. So we'll see. Ingrid said, you can really see those that fail economics class in school. Ingrid, I get what you're saying. The thing is, you could pass economics class without even understanding the first three laws of economics because it's not required for you to pass the class. To pass the class, you just got to memorize the bullshit in the textbook. I took economics class in college, but they didn't teach these things that I'm talking about. I learned these on my own. But I get what you're saying. I get the direction of your point. Slam Fat said, New York and California are the largest federal tax-paying states. Well, yeah, they got the most people. They're in the top list of the most people. Let's say. Tiffany says, some employers provide transportation allowance for those of us using public transportation. That's where, okay, I get what you're saying. The companies will pay for it. Slam Fat said, I don't think he's saying that everyone will ride for free. It's just those that are in need. Well, yeah, in detail, he will probably break that down into it's just those that are in need. But he says right here, make buses fast and free. That's all he says. Now, again, this is his bio, so there's only so much space you have to say things. I get what you're saying, Slam Fat. But again, the whole point is he's running on these high level things that sound good. Because if he gave you all that detail, then you wouldn't get excited. Final Faction said, why do we wear ties like suits are the relic of the past? You're not progressive. Suits are not a relic of the past. What are you talking about? You been to a funeral? Were there people there in suits? And I'm not saying that's the only example, but no, suits are not a relic of the past. I don't know who told you that. Terry Boston Mom said, who's going to pay the workers? You. Yes, exactly. Wizard King said they print money every day, though. Yes, the thing is that they just kept printing money. The money becomes less valuable and prices go up anyway. So everything balances out in one way or another. If you just print a whole bunch of money and put it into circulation, then the value of that dollar has decreased. Therefore, people have to ask you for more dollars for the same thing. This is why the cost of eggs goes up, because of inflation. Inflation is an increased cost, and costs increase when you put too much money in circulation. So you can't just print money just to print money. and not have a cost of printing that money. That's the issue. Larry Brown said, what happens when you tax corporations at a high level? They leave. Exactly. Or if you tax them higher than they want to be taxed, they leave. Doesn't even matter how much. If you tax them more than they want to leave, they will leave. Blaze Roberson said he has not received $7.6 billion from those to randomly cover it. Yeah, that's another thing. Larry says someone set on fire in the subway. Dude wants to get rid of the police. Yeah, now some people are arguing that he just wants to increase humanitarian services, not get rid of the police. I mean, they play around with the language. Slam said the rich don't put their self on payroll to avoid paying one of the highest taxes, which is smart. Isn't that smart, Slam Fat? I think it's a smart idea. Why would you put yourself in a position to have to give up your own money? Anything you can do to keep your own money is smart. Carolyn said, the people who voted for Mondani, you asked how were all the workers going to get paid? Well, everybody's going to pay for it. It's not just the people who voted for him. Again, this is the reason why I say even if you didn't vote for the person who won, you voted for the person who won. Because whatever that person who won does, whatever they do, you are subject to it even if you didn't vote for them. So if you're listening to me right now, you did not vote for Donald Trump. You still did vote for Donald Trump because everything he does is going to affect you the same way it's going to affect the people who voted for him. So I see on X, people are always like, hey, if you voted for Trump, then you're to blame for this. I'm like, mofo, everybody's to blame for it because everybody voted for him because we have a democratic voting process. And whoever wins, you are subject to what that person decides to do, whether you wanted them to win or not, because it's a majority rules process. So if there's 3 people in a music group and 2 people want to sing this song and I want to sing that song, we still got to sing the song that they want to sing because it's majority rules. You got to go with what the group decides. So everybody's going to pay for it, not just the people who voted for him. So Papa Tej said, tax the rich. Yeah, that sounds good. Captain Crunch said, if anyone knows history, socialism isn't related to communism or even leads to that. Well, I don't want to know what it leads to or even need to know. I just need to know I just know we need to stick to capitalism. That's what I said. Cold World said, I love your hair. Thank you. Knuckles McGinty said his tax plan would tax those people an extra $20K a year. That's nothing to a multimillionaire. That's false. Knuckles, if you think $20K is nothing to a multimillionaire, go knock on a multimillionaire's door and ask them for $20,000. Since it's nothing. I mean, if it's nothing, then it'd be easy for them to give it to you. Knock on 10 doors, ask for $20K a piece. You just made yourself $200,000 in one day. Let me know how that goes. Since it's nothing. Everything seems like nothing when you frame it in this incorrect way. But one thing you should understand about people who have a lot of money is the reason they have a lot of money is because they care about every dollar. That's how you get there. You don't get there by being frivolous with your money. So whenever someone says something like what you just said here, talking about money as if it's some frivolous thing just because you have whatever you consider to be a lot of it, that is false. So what you just communicated here, all due respect, is that you know very little about money. And Papa Tej went and just said the same thing. He said the rich can rent a whole island, they can pay taxes. Again, in theory, that sounds good. And the rich already pay taxes. Most of the tax dollars that the government collects come from people who are in the top 1% of income earners. And a lot of people don't know that. Most tax dollars come from the top 1%. The majority of the money. So they do pay taxes. Now, you want them to pay a certain amount just because they have it? No. Slam said they may create businesses that create jobs, but is the pay enough for people to survive on? That's not my problem. If I own a business and I create a job and you get hired and you're working for me making whatever you're making and you believe that whatever I'm paying you is not enough for you to survive on, how the fuck is that my problem? If it's not enough for you to survive on, quit and go get a better job. I'm not responsible for how much you need to survive. What I'm paying you is not enough and this is what you're worth in the open market as far as I'm concerned, I'm not responsible for subsidizing your lifestyle. You're responsible. So if you're not making enough money at this job, go get a different job. And if there's no job that will pay you enough money for how much you claim that you need, then that's a personal problem. You need to step up your value in the marketplace. That's the way the marketplace works. That's how free markets work. If you have value, you should be able to go command that value in the open marketplace. And if you cannot command the value that you think you're worth in the open marketplace, then maybe you're not worth what you thought you were worth. That's the way the game works. Papo said, why don't make a book about helping the poor? Me? You want me to make a book about helping the poor? I did. It's right here. It's called Work On It. This is the number one thing the poor need to do. Work on your game. All right. If you're poor, do this. Work on your game. All right. So I wrote a book about helping the poor. I should start framing it that way. I should send out an email. I wrote a book about helping the poor. Here it is. Work on your game. All right, you work on your game. That'll help you if you're poor. And poor is more of a mindset than it is a financial state. Broke is a financial situation. Poor is a mindset. And this book will help you with that poor mindset. Marky Man said, don't forget the bus driver's pension. Well, yeah, everything. Jermaine said, this is shameful reasoning. What are you referring to? Chelsea said, give companies tax credits if they lower prices, get population to buy more, get more sales tax, boom. So let's see that. Let me go through that again. Give companies a tax credit if they lower their prices. Now, if they lower their prices, that means they're going to be making less money, right? But then they get a tax credit to make up for the money that they're not making anymore. The population buys more of the stuff, and then you collect more of the sales tax. Well, the thing is, Chelsea, the flaw in your plan here, Chelsea, is that the sales tax will be lesser if the prices are lower, because sales tax is based on how much gets spent. So if I spend $100, I pay this much in tax. Let's say I pay $8 in tax on a $100 purchase, but if I lower my price to $50, then the tax is only $4. So you actually didn't solve any problem. All you did was just add more red tape into the process while still collecting the same amount of money, theoretically speaking. Knuckles said, those people who actually do the work should be getting that money. What money are you talking about? You get the money based on what you can command in the open marketplace. That's the way markets work. You get paid based on the value that you can command and secure in the open marketplace. So if you think you're worth $10, but nobody will pay you $10, but somebody will pay you $8, then you're worth $8. You're not worth what you say you're worth. You're worth what you can command and secure in the open marketplace. So if I'm selling a house, you ever see those real estate reality shows where the real estate agent gets a new listing, meaning they're trying to help somebody sell a house. And the owner of the house says this house is worth $10 million. Then the real estate agent goes out and tries to find somebody to buy the house for $10 million, but the best offer they can get is for $9 million. Then the owner of the house gets mad at the agent and says, hey, this is a $10 million house. You only got me offer for $9 million. Go find me a buyer for $10 million. And they get mad. And then the real estate agent goes out and tries to find more buyers, and they can't find anybody who will offer more than $9 million. The owner of the house has two choices. Either A, fire the real estate agent and find somebody who will get them a $10 million buyer. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Or B, realize that your house is not worth $10 million fucking dollars. It's worth $9 because that's what the market is telling you, and accept the $9 million and get the hell out of the house. So you only got two choices. That's the way markets work, ladies and gentlemen. It's not, I should get this just because I said I should get it. All right, that's kindergarten logic. Kindergarten is over for most of you. Jermaine said, people doing jobs is what make people rich. No, that's false. That's not what makes people rich. What makes people rich, and let's just assume by rich you mean making a lot of money, because there's definitions of rich a lot of people don't even understand. But how someone makes a lot of money in owning a business is not because they got a bunch of workers. They make a lot of money because they're providing a value to the marketplace that people are willing to spend money on. And because you have people willing to spend money on the offering that you're making, your product or your service, and you have people making money or spending money for you to give them that product or service, then you go hire people so that you can continue serving and you can serve more and more people. So you hire more people to meet the demands. The people working get paid what they accept. You get paid what you accept. So if you're making 50 grand a year, but you believe you're worth 75, then my question to you is, why the hell are you accepting 50 if you're worth 75? I don't think you really believe you're worth 75. You're accepting 50. That's my question to anybody who has this concept of, the people who are doing the work, they should be getting the money because they're the ones who allow it to happen. No, you're not. Because if I shut down my business, what are you doing now? Now you're unemployed because I shut down my business. The only reason you have a job is because someone started a business. So if no one starts any businesses, you won't have a job because there's nowhere for you to work. Jobs only exist because entrepreneurs start businesses. And again, they don't teach you this in school because your college professors are all employees. So they're not qualified to teach this. And even if they knew it, they don't want to tell you because then who are they? Knuckles said, by exploiting their workers. Okay. Where do you work, Knuckles McGinty? Are you being exploited? If you work at Starbucks, are they exploiting you? If so, why you keep working there? If you have a job and you believe you're being exploited by your employer, why do you keep working there? This is my question. If you just allow yourself to be exploited, what are you? Slavery is over. Why are you getting exploited and allowing it to happen? Are you stupid? You just allowing yourself to get exploited? Or is somebody getting exploited that they don't know about it? You need to go inform them like, hey, Mr. Worker at Target, do you know that they're exploiting you? I know you didn't know, but let me inform you. They're exploiting you, paying you this job. Maddie said, free childcare will mean low quality caregivers. Yes, it does. Who would want that for their children? Nobody. And again, this is the reason why it doesn't make any sense. Jermaine said, we have the phones because people made them. No, we have the phones because Steve Jobs came up with the idea. What are you talking about? And then Steve Jobs said, we need to mass produce these phones because a lot of people want them. So let me go hire some people who will make the phones according to our specifications. It's not like some random $6 an hour worker in Brazil came up with the idea for the phone. All they did was execute the system of here's how to put the phone together. Here's the manufacturing process for the phone. Here's the conveyor belt. Here's the warehouse where we're going to make the phones. All you need to do, if you want this job, we're going to pay you $10 an hour, is make each phone. As long as you follow the process and make the phones, then you get the money. That's the way the process works. Steve Jobs came up with the idea. The workers, all they do is follow the process that Steve Jobs came up with. That's the way the process actually works. Where do y'all get these terrible ideas? Where do y'all go to school? Knuckles McGinty said, no free lunch is a meaningless buzz phrase. It's not a buzz phrase. It's a reality, and it's been around for 80 years. It's not new. So buzz phrases are things that are trendy. This is not a trendy phrase. Jeff said he's using the Trump playbook on the socialist side of politics. In some ways, he's using the Trump playbook. This is true. Chelsea said tax credit for the corporations, reduce inflation, boost spend, more sales tax. No, Chelsea, I already told you that doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. And if it did make sense, why do you think nobody's tried it yet? ABC DV Log says some people are against him because of his religion or because he's an immigrant. Yes, that is very true. Knuckles said, why wouldn't people want their taxes going towards things that actually benefit them? Well, we do. Everybody wants their taxes going towards things that benefit them. We all want that. So I don't think that's the case. Everybody wants that. ZJ Zender said, free, no such thing. Sounds good. They all promise. Yes, a lot of them do. Not all of them. It seems to be more on the left than the right. Jiminy Slick said, Illinois tried this approach. Our biggest billionaire moved to Florida. Well, was that the reason why? Appreciate you, Daniel Lee. And we had 100,000 likes. Thank you, everybody, for getting the likes up. We'll go a few more minutes and we'll wrap this up. Nogo said, can you explain why socialism is so bad? I never said socialism was bad. I said this guy calls himself a socialist, and then I listed some of the socialist ideas that he is espousing. So I never actually talked about socialism on its face, just what this mayoral candidate in New York City said he's going to do, because he calls himself a socialist. So no, I cannot explain it. Knuckles said, why does it make fiscal sense to make the city affordable for the millions of minimum wage workers? This is a Socratic trap question. Nobody said that it doesn't make fiscal sense to make the city affordable. What doesn't make fiscal sense is a mayor of a city, or soon to be mayor of a city, saying that I'm going to do all these things that cost money when the money does not exist. That's what doesn't make fiscal sense. It doesn't make logical sense. It's not even fiscal sense. It doesn't make logical or rational sense, let alone fiscal sense. So your question is a false frame. Nice try. Nogo says, seems like people who don't like socialism are upper middle class or higher. Okay, that's how you feel. I have no response to that. Nogo said, U.S. citizens are too used to overconsumption. That I agree with. Jackie's Daily Blessing said, I was so inspired by your content after being on here yesterday, life-changing. Jackie, if you like that, then wait until you get into our program. Join the circle at Work on Your Game University. Go to the link in my profile, Jackie. If that was life-changing, what you heard on this live, all right, imagine what happens when you go deeper into our world. So I'm glad you came back, though. Thank you. Michelle, good morning. Lynn, thank you for the community fest. Nogo said, if Mondani is a socialist for wanting things to be more affordable, how is that bad? This is a straw man question. Nogo, congratulations. Straw man of the day, number 2. So straw man, ladies and gentlemen, is a logical fallacy. When someone takes something that you said, they rephrase it into something that you didn't say, then they repose it to you as a question or a comment or some form of ridicule or sarcasm. So what Nogo does here, he says, if Mondani is a socialist for wanting things to be more affordable, that is a false frame, because he's a socialist because he said he's a socialist. Literally, Nogo, I don't think you know about this. This is his X profile where he literally calls himself Democratic Socialist. I'm calling him a socialist because he calls himself a socialist. I'm not calling him a socialist as a pejorative. I'm calling him a socialist because he calls himself one. And he's a socialist because he said he is, not because he wants things to be more affordable. It was a false frame. That's not what he said. How is that bad? You're asking how is that bad as if I'm saying it's bad for a reason that's not even true. That's why it's a straw man, because you rephrase it into something that I didn't say, and then you're asking me to respond to something that I didn't say as if I'm defending my own comment when I'm actually not. I'm defending your rephrasing, improper and fallacious rephrasing of something that I did say. I'm going to address your nonsense here after pointing out the straw man, which I just did. Congratulations. Is that he's a socialist because he said he is. He wants things to be more affordable. Who doesn't? Everybody does. The reason that it's quote unquote bad is not that it's bad. It's that it does not make logical sense for him to be able to do it because the money does not exist. That's why it's a false concept. It's not quote unquote bad. It's a false concept. Rapology said the NYPD isn't going anywhere. Well, it may go somewhere. It just depends where it's going. Rapology said taxing the rich has improved social services in every single instance in every nation, no question. Okay, if you think that. Depends on what you mean by taxing the rich, because in every country, the rich already get taxed. So your comment here is kind of a false frame. There's nowhere in the world that the rich don't get taxed. In America, the rich get taxed. It's just how much they get taxed is the debate, not if they get taxed at all. Rapology said NYC has had rent control across the board for a century. It already exists. It only exists in some places. Rent control does not apply to every building in New York. Rapology, you're speaking in general terms, but your concepts are off from the details of where this conversation is. It happens sometimes when people come in the middle of the conversation, you start responding to things that are not accurate. Amber says, it's odd you have an audience. People will truly listen to just anything. Well, Amber, people listen to substance. Now, if you want to know what it looks like when you don't have substance, then you should turn around and look at your audience when you go live. I mean, you asked for some engagement, you got it. Rapology said that's a misleading tax that they pay the most due to mass wealth inequality. It's not misleading, it's the reality. That's the truth. Yes, there's a wealth inequality. Guess what else there's an inequality in? There's an inequality in discipline. There's an inequality in intelligence. There's an inequality in production. There's an inequality in showing up every day. There's an inequality in mental toughness. There's an inequality in effectiveness. There's an inequality in value. There's an inequality in a lot of things. And it should be an inequality. That's why there are rich people and poor people based on what people do in the marketplace. Is this true? Of course it's true. There's an inequality in there's some girls that are really pretty and there's some girls that ain't. There's some people who are fat and there's some people who are skinny. There's an inequality in everything. So this inequality in wealth, people talk about this like this is some moral, terrible thing that America is doing. There's an inequality in every other aspect of America. Why does nobody have a problem with that? Because the other ones are much more reflective, directly reflective of people's actual behavior. So there's a bunch of fat people in America. There's a bunch of skinny people. Why does nobody talk about that like it's some moral crusade? Why? Because it can only be affected by what you choose to do. And wealth is generally affected by what you choose to do. Now, yes, you can be born into a bad situation or a better situation. But beautiful thing about America is that we had the upward mobility with that within one lifetime, you can go from the bottom to the top. And there are plenty of stories of people doing it. And you can go from the top to the bottom in one lifetime. So it's not like you were born into this aristocratic world where if you're born at the bottom, you got to stay there. And if you're born at the top, you get to stay there regardless of what you do. No, you can go up and down. So people talking about this, there's a wealth inequality as if that's some type of bad thing. It's supposed to be a wealth inequality. All right. If you had a bunch of the wealth to put you at the top, would you have a problem with the inequality? Probably not. Well, Heck said, who defines what rich is? Well, people tend to use the term as a general sense, just people who have a certain amount of money. But rich is not even about how much money you have. Rich is a measure of time, not a measure of money. But a lot of people who don't understand money say that. Let's see. Rapology said none have been connected to the current rent stabilization regime. What are you referring to? You're responding to something out of context. I don't know what you're saying. PJ said, if you tax them too much, they can and will move. Then who pays the taxes? Well, nobody. And then you don't have any money. So then you're back to the original problem. So Giggle said, first woman's going to break the 4-minute mile on Nike YouTube today. Oh, is that real? Is that going to happen? Oh, okay. I didn't know that was going to happen. So am I going to watch it? No. But if she does it, that'd be cool. Jackie said, exactly. That's why I'm here. Work on my mindset. Well, Jackie, you need to go. First of all, you should go get this book. Work on your game. Again, I wrote a book to help the poor. Somebody asked me why not do something to help the poor and write a book to help the poor. I did. It's this book right here. Work on your game helps the poor. So if you are mentally poor or physically poor, this book will help you because I'm not going to give you the Bernie Sanders. I'm not going to give you the Zoran Mamdani and tell you that I'm going to solve all your problems. No, fuck that. I'm not going to solve your problems. What I'm going to do is point out your problems. I'm going to tell you what you can do about your problems. I'm going to tell you exactly what to do. And it's contained in this book called Work on Your Game. Now, I'm going to teach you how to fish. I'm not going to give you a fish. See, politicians tell you they're going to give you a fish. I'm going to show you how to fish. Let's see. Rapology said, I bet you like Thomas Sowell. I have read his books and I like his stuff, but I read 1,000 books and I like a lot of people's stuff. So name another author. I probably like their stuff too. Paul Handyman said, markets only work in a context shaped by laws. There's no such thing as what you're worth. Well, Paul, there's no such thing as what you're worth. There is a such thing as what I'm worth. There's no such thing as what you're worth. Speak for yourself. User said, is the open market biased? Well, define bias. The answer is generally yes, it's biased. Open market is biased to people who provide the most value. Yes. That's the reason why Bill Gates makes more money than the maintenance man in his same company, because the open market is more biased towards him than it is the maintenance man, because the maintenance man is more easily replaceable. So yes, it is biased. Paul said the open market is a fantasy. It doesn't exist. Well, it doesn't exist for you, but you speak for yourself. Sam said, I don't understand how people complain about their wage when they agree to it when they are hired. I understand it, Sam, because most people, Sam, what you're not understanding, if you really, mean that, but I think you understand it very well, Sam. What it is most people do not want accountability. They don't want to be held responsible for their own behaviors, their own actions, and their own situations. So they would rather hear from someone who will tell them that your problems are not your fault. It's somebody else's fault. Let me tell you how I'll solve all your problems. All you got to do is follow me, vote for me, read my book, follow me on Instagram, and I'll solve all your problems, because most human beings do not think, they don't read, and they're lazy. So if you give people something that removes accountability and removes all ownership from them, they will gladly sign up for it. This is the reason why Kamala Harris got so many votes in 2024. Is the reason why this guy one of the reasons why he won this election in New York. Is the reason why Bernie Sanders has fans, even though he's been saying the same shit and failing at it for 30 years, because people would rather have all accountability removed from their plates, because accountability is a burden. It is work. It requires effort. Most people don't want to put effort and work into anything. So if you give them a safety valve to where they don't have to be responsible for anything, they will gladly take it. This is human nature. This is not politics. This is human nature. Understand, I've been in this game for a long time. All right, between all my audiences and all my content, I've been in front of millions of people. It's just online alone. And when you start talking this accountability shit, a lot of people get mad and they start pushing back, from the basketball audience to the entrepreneurs to all of you, whatever we want to call this group who's watching me right now. When I was talking to basketball players, people get mad at me for saying this. I say, you didn't make the basketball team because you can't play. It's not because of the coach, because you can't play. I talk to entrepreneurs. I tell them the same thing, get the same pushback. I talk to people who are talking about politics, same pushback. It's the same pushback over and over again, because people don't like being held accountable. So let's see. Big D said, you're brilliant. Thank you for sharing your help. You help many people. Well, thank you. Z Gender said, government taxes equal waste. At least corporations create jobs and they are more efficient. Fact. Yes, they are. Private businesses are more efficient when it comes to money and production than the government is. And that one, everybody should agree to, even if you disagree with everything else I said. Michelle said, my live froze. So hopefully it came back. I don't ever get any notices on TikTok if there's any problem. Sam said, why do so many people think they're entitled to so much instead of working hard? Well, I just answered that one. None your business said, nothing in this world is free. That's correct. 40 said, name a country that's benefited from socialism. I don't know. And I'm not a fan of socialism. This is 40 said, you give up too much freedom to become socialist. The rulers will always take advantage. Probably. The champ says, state-owned grocery stores are going to destroy small businesses in New York City. Oh, yeah, I was going to talk about that. So here's what they say Zoran Mandami is proposing in New York. That he's going to open a network of city-run grocery stores, initially 5 locations, 1 in each borough, designed to lower costs by operating without a profit motive. They're not going to pay rent or property taxes, and they're going to buy products wholesale. He claims this approach will pass savings directly to consumers and help combat rising food prices. The plan is projected to cost around $60 million for the 5 stores, with potential expansion if it's successful. Is intended to be financed through reallocating city tax dollars, including higher corporate taxes, and be part of a broader affordability agenda that includes rent freezes and public transit. In other words, the corporations are going to pay for these stores. That's, in other words, what that says. They're going to reallocate tax dollars. It means they're going to take the money they're putting towards this and they're going to put it towards that. The problem is this still needs money. So they're going to take that money from the corporations, allegedly, and this is how they're going to pay for this whole thing. Sounds great. Criticism is many small business grocers argue that the plan poses unfair competition and risks displacing neighborhood stores. In other words, if another store that's owned by the city comes in and builds right across the street from my store where I'm making money because I got to charge a certain amount to make a profit, you come in without a profit motive, you're going to undercut me on price. You're going to put me, a person who lives in the city and earns a living here and pays taxes here, you're going to put me out of business so you can have your state-run store. That's one criticism. Next one is some critics warn of bureaucratic inefficiencies, linking it to a Soviet-style approach prone to corruption or poor execution. Some say that could happen. Bureaucratic inefficiency is going to be run by the government, so we know it's not going to be perfect. That's another criticism. Another one says they have threatened to close or relocate stores if the policy moves forward, citing the store network as a direct threat to private operations, which it absolutely is. So basically, he's coming in saying the government's going to run a business. We're going to undercut all the private businesses, and everybody's going to be happy about it. How does that make any sense? And this is central to his platform, this affordability platform. Rent freezes, free buses, free childcare, aim at easing the cost of living crisis. Now, is there a cost of living issue? Yes. But is this going to solve it? No. The proposal signals a bold progressive shift in governance, at least allegedly. Again, he's claiming he's going to do this. This doesn't make any sense. And he's going to be attacking private businesses in order to do his public sector thing. And nobody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about how he's going to be undercutting the very people who he's allegedly trying to help. So I'm going to hurt the business owner so we can help the people in the neighborhood. So you don't have to pay $8 for some tomatoes. We're going to charge you $5 for tomatoes. Put the private business owner out of business so you can have a state-run government. The problem is the people spending $5 on tomatoes to go to the state-run store. You don't understand that if they do that to every business, because if it works in the food business, they're going to do it in other businesses. Oh, it worked here. Let's do it over here. It worked here. Let's do it over here. It worked in that. Let's do it to Uber. It worked in that. Let's do it in taxis. It worked in that. Let's do it in the gym. And before you know it, everything is owned by the government. And now the government has complete control, a monopoly over everything. And guess what? Next, they're going to start telling you what you can and can't do because they own everything. And if you don't listen, now you can't access all the stuff that they own. If you don't have access to a private business, you don't have access to an alternative, they're going to undercut every business that's in New York. This is a terrible idea. And it sounds really good on the surface, especially if you don't own a business. But this is a very, very bad idea. I don't think it's going to work. I don't think they'll even be able to implement it, but this is still a terrible idea. XTR said, how do I get your books? Go to the link in my profile on TikTok, XTR. The link that says workonyourgame.live. There's links to all my books right there. Golf Fanatic said, you are spot on. Excellent live. Thank you. Murphy the Mutt said, you're on it today. I enjoy it. Thank you. Go Yo Got said, Olo Amigo. Ola Amigo. You're always on point. Thank you. 40 said, he said, you must like Thomas Sowell because you aren't being sympathetic to their feelings. Haha. Yeah, well, Thomas Sowell, one of the things he talks about is that once he started understanding logical facts, there's a fact for you. He realized that a lot of things that he had previously believed were not true. Junkyard Dog said, Dre is spot on. Thank you. 40G said, they are so upset with the truth. Nah, I see. Code Red said, doesn't the saying go, if hard working leads to success, then the donkey would own the farm? I never heard that saying before, but it's accurate. DNG Capital said, not a fan of socialism, but let people decide what they want. Yes, that's how it goes. As they say, elections have consequences. So New York, allegedly they want this. So New York, congratulations. Carla said, who wants the government owning the grocery stores? Well, Carla, 46% of voting New Yorkers, they want the government owning the grocery stores because this is part of his plan. And this is 40 said, higher corporate taxes means those businesses will come to Texas and Florida. Yeah, they're going to get out of there. That's what's going to happen. User said, be really nice if you would be invited to get your message to soldiers in our military. Well, I had a guy who's been in the military. He was in the Air Force for 21 years. I did an event, and he had read this book before the event. He said to me, Dre, what you put here in this book is really good for people in the military because it's agnostic to a profession. So you don't have to be in the military to read this book. I'm not from the military, and I wrote the book. He said the concept, the philosophy is agnostic to a profession. And it is. This is the reason why a bunch of you don't do the same thing that I do, don't have my background, but you can still understand what I'm saying. And my philosophy is encoded in this book right here. I mean, my company is literally called Work on Your Game for a reason. So I'm going to wrap this up in a minute, folks. It only makes sense if people don't want to work to make more money to survive. Yeah, pretty much. Just here for the content said, free, someone pays. That's right. Nothing is free. Everything is being paid for by somebody. Big Sam said, how is it that pantries don't put other businesses out of business? Well, that's a question we would have to dive deeper into for me to answer it. I'm not going to answer it right here. Jackie said, that's exactly the leftist ideology I'm talking about. Wish they could see how their ideas play out. Well, we see how their ideas play out. And speaking of Thomas Sowell, this is one of the things that he talks about, is that someone on the political left or the right will come out with an idea that sounds really good. They push the idea through and get it implemented. But if and when that idea turns out to be nonsense, they don't get held accountable for their bad idea. Because by the time we realize it was a bad idea, it's like 5 years later, they might not even be in office anymore. Or they just repackage their idea and talk about it in a different way. So the challenge with politicians in America is that they never get held accountable or face consequences for their bad ideas. They just get to push a new idea, and then they come up with another one, and then the ones that don't work, they never get consequences for it. So Indiana Homegirl said, hopefully the Dems and socialists learn something today. You're a great communicator. Well, thank you. And right next to that, Big Sam said, you just phrase it well. Your logic is not that logical. Well, Big Sam, what you should do is do your own live, and let's see if you can do it better than me. I mean, that's what the open market is. So those you asking what's the open market, this is the open market. All right, any of you can start a live stream and say whatever you want. Let's see how the audience responds to you. You can do it better than me. Do it. 173 says, just like McDonald's in California with $20 an hour mandatory. Yeah, I heard they raised that mandatory. Amanda Edmondson, thank you for the follow. All right, so we're going to wrap this up. It's right at 10 o'clock, folks. I'll do these lives from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday. So if you like this one, come back tomorrow. If you didn't like this one, come back tomorrow. If you think that I just phrased things well, but I'm not good, come back tomorrow. If you are a fan of socialism, come back tomorrow. If you're a fan of capitalism, come back tomorrow. For those of you asking, how do you get access to my books and my other stuff? There's a link in my profile on TikTok, or it's the pinned comment y'all see on these other apps. Workonyourgame.live. It takes you to this page right here. If you like the live stream, here's your next move. Here, I give you a way to get on my email list for free. I send out emails every single day. My group coaching entry-level group coaching program is called The Circle. It's $97 a month. You can join it right there. All of my links, my YouTube channel. I'm recording this on YouTube right now, so the replay will be on YouTube. Is right there. My podcast, I have a podcast that comes out every day. It's on Apple and Spotify. That link is right there. A couple of my books that you can get for free. Those links are right here. These are sales funnels, so we'll offer you more than one book. I got a Dre GPT. That's my live chat bot. So if you like the way I talk here, imagine having 24/7 access to me, my frameworks, my systems. That's called Dre GPT. So you can get access to that right there. My Instagram page is there. My X link is there as well. My executive assistant's email address is right here. So if you want to reach out to me for a media appearance or a speaking gig, just email my assistant. She will help you out there. You learn more about Work on Your Game University. That's our full-time thing. That's where I do my coaching and my consulting. That's all at Work on Your Game University. That link is right here. It's all on this page, workonyourgame.live. That link is in my profile on TikTok. So 10 o'clock, folks, we're going to wrap this up. I have a call coming up at 11 today. I got back-to-back calls, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. And then I got a lot of other things I need to take care of here today. So we need to wrap this up and move on to other business. I appreciate everybody's time and attention here today. Thank you to the moderators and the regulars who are always in here. We got 116,000 likes. Appreciate all of you. Marky Man, I saw you in here. Nikki was here. Cargo was here. A bunch of all others. G Black, I see you as well. Those of you who have been in here consistently, appreciate that. I will see you all tomorrow morning, Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. What are we going to talk about? I don't know. We might talk about the Diddy trial. Depends on what happens today and how close they get the closing arguments. But we will be talking about Diddy. Don't worry. The Diddy trial, I will not forget about that one. That's coming up. I'll see you all tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern. Everybody have a great Thursday. Work on your fucking game. Workonyourgamebook.com. That's where you get this one. Workonyourgamebook.com. That's easy to remember, right? Workonyourgamebook.com. That's where you can get this one. Everybody have a great Thursday. We out here. Hertz Donut said he's better. No, I answered that one. Employees generally are negotiating than employees. A lot of workers will accept lower wages they can actually get because they won't speak up. I don't know about speaking up. I mean, you just get a better job. You just quit and get a better job. You don't have to speak at all.